Hey, welcome back to the Earned by Experience podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Ben Browse. This week I had our longtime friend on. Her name is Mary Fitch, and actually is our first female guest. I'm super pumped. She was a blast to sit down and hang out with. And long story short, she actually used to be our kids' babysitter back when they were little. And heck, she was only 13 or 14. So, anyhow, it's interesting to catch up with her. I haven't seen her in forever. So, it was nice to catch up and enjoy her conversation and see what led her to exactly where she's at these days. So, thanks, Mary, for coming on. Really appreciate it. And as always, thanks for all support to the podcast. It seems to get a little bit bigger each week. So, I just want to say big thanks. And I hope you guys enjoy the listen. And we'll see you next week. Mary, I'm happy to have you in studio.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so pumped. You so graciously accepted. I haven't seen you or heard from you or talked to you in forever. I'm like, hey, have such an interesting background. I want to talk to you.
Thank you. Heck, appreciate it. Yeah, no, I'm excited to be here. Yeah, I haven't been out to the barn in like a couple years now. Lots of good memories out here and everything. So it's cool to be on like a different side of things now. And obviously we're just talking about like lots changed in a couple years. So
I'd say
lots to catch up on for sure. Yeah.
No, it's been a long time since I've seen you. But yeah, you have a super interesting background, and I love your family. They used to host our Christmas parties. Your mom's the best. Shout out to Marilyn.
Oh yeah.
I hope she listens to this.
She cannot wait to listen to this. Yeah, I was on the phone with her on the way out here, and she's like, you got to like show me how I can listen to this. Like you've got to make sure that I can watch this. And I was like, I got you, Mom.
We'll make sure.
My sister-in-law goes, we're gonna have a streaming party. I was like, I don't think we need to do that. But
who knows? But yeah, they was so awesome. We've spent many Christmases near your house, and we've done so many fun games and things and activities. And your family's the best, the nicest people ever.
Thank you. Yeah.
And then
very blessed.
Yeah, they are nice. Yeah. And I'm like, watching social media, and I see you and you're at welding school, and I'm like, of all the things ever, for me, my brain to think what you would do in the future after you graduated was definitely not welding.
Same. I knew nothing about welding. I throughout like middle and high school. I'd always think like, oh, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? I definitely knew I didn't love school. And there were definitely times that I kind of thought, oh, well, maybe I'll go into the military. I'm not sure if I want to go to college. And then the high school I went to was a college prep school. So they, really were kind of like zoning in on like, finding a good college to go to. And I ended up going to Towson University, just for a year. Well, I thought I was going to be going for a lot longer than that, but
thankfully it's only a year.
Yeah, I got really interested in like sports medicine, so like athletic training. I really wanted to be an athletic trainer, and I got into that program, and I loved I made great friends while I was there, great memories, but I hated class, man. I hated school.
School sucks.
It sucked, dude. I hated it so much.
I hated school too.
I hated the homework. I hated studying for tests. Like, I hated it. So
it's not for everyone.
No. And at the end of, that first year, COVID was, that was like the height of COVID. So when like halfway through the summer, a lot of schools were announcing that they were just going to be online for the next semester. And I just remember talking to my parents, and I'm like, hey, I like really don't want to do that again. Like online class, I already didn't love class, and then online class, like sitting in front of my computer all day, I'm like, I can't do that. Like it sucks. And
I can't imagine how they received that information.
They were really understanding about it. Like they've always known, like I am not just like a sit around person. Like I like to like, be doing stuff, be busy. And like they knew that like me sitting in a room all day being on Zoom classes, like I think they also knew that probably was not going to work out well for me. And it started the famous, like, I'm just going to take a semester off, I was like, I'm definitely going to go back. I'm just going to take a semester off. So, I had like my summer job and then just, continued it through the fall. And, as staffing got shorter, I started getting some overtime hours. I was just like working at a hotel, but I started to see some paychecks with a little bit of overtime on them. And I'm like, hey, wait a second. Like, I think I'll just keep doing this. Like,
Yeah.
I'm chilling. I'm good. And then I started waitressing, and I just kind of like hung out in Ocean City for a year. I was waitressing, worked at the hotel, like just kind of hanging out. And then I think my parents kind of saw me getting a little too comfortable, just kind of hanging out.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, you don't have to go back to school. Like, if you don't want to go to college, you don't have to. They're like, but you need to do something. Like, you need something that's going to guarantee you future employment. And I was like, yeah, you make a good point. I probably do. So I literally Googled how to make money without a degree because I knew I wanted to like make some money. But I knew I had no motivation to put honestly, just like the time into it. Like, I'm really impatient. I've always struggled with patience. And, I was like, I don't have like the patience to, commit myself to a degree that's going to take years to get and then maybe come out making, like a super average salary. Like, I was like, I need more.
I wish everyone said that though.
Yeah.
Like everyone leads you up in these elementary schools in throughout your lifetime to where this degree is going to be some magical thing.
Yeah. And
It's like what everyone think as a kid.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go get a degree and do this,
Yeah.
and then like just like you said, you get some mediocre job and you're like unhappy.
Yeah, and
making mediocre money.
Yeah, and it's especially with the economy today. I mean, even which it wasn't even as crazy. Like, that was 4 years ago, like, or 5 years ago. It wasn't even like that bad then. But like, especially now, where we're at, like,
It's crazy.
it's like people get these degrees, people get like great degrees, and then they're still, living paycheck to paycheck in like a lot of cases,
or they end up being a waitress.
yeah, exactly. Or it's like I had one of my friends get her master's degree, and 5 months out of school, she's a barista because like she can't get a job. Like, and it's insane. You know what I mean? Like, you put this. She now has like a great job and everything, but it's like you just never know what's gonna come of it, and or like especially like with AI and everything, like taking over a lot of jobs, and it's kind of hard to find something that you want to put the time into to get a degree and find something that interests you that also has the guarantee of employment. And so when I Googled, like, how can I make some money without a degree? Pretty much everything that came back on that Google search was like trade work. I mean, like plumbing, HVAC, welding, electrical, like, all the stuff that people don't want to do themselves or can't do themselves, so they got to pay someone else to do.
Or they're just so busy doing it, they need more people to do it with them.
Exactly. And I think, like you were saying, like the push for college, that hasn't always been there. And so, a lot of the like trades and everything have a much like older average age to them because so many people stopped going into the trades and started going the college route.
Right.
Excuse me. That, a lot of them, I remember like one of my bosses like on the job saying like the trades are dying. Like, we need more young people because at some insane statistic, I don't remember like the numbers, but it was projected that in the next like 10 years, like something like 70% of the like trade workforce, like the blue collar workforce, was going to be retiring because they were at retirement age. Like, it's not 20, 30-year-olds. Like, it's a whole lot of people in their 50s, like 60s, like, they can't do this forever. Like,
right.
It's hard
and
work.
it's hard work.
Yeah. It's hard on the body. Like, that work ages you.
Yeah.
Like,
Quick.
I only did it for a few years and like I still feel it sometimes. Like,
yeah. I can imagine actually in the field, but
yeah, it's so I like tried to look into each some different trades, just see like what day-to-day life looked like doing that, job opportunity, career growth opportunity. Like, I wanted to go into something that I could continue to grow in my career and maybe at one point potentially like maybe even like help run a business doing it, or something I could continue to grow in over time. And welding just really, like, it really interested me. Like, I kept going back to that. Like, I started looking at some other stuff and I just kept being like, I don't know, welding just seems really cool. Like, it's such a broad trade. Like, there's so many ways so many like routes you can take with it. And Warwick, the community college over here, offers an intro to welding class. So I signed up for that. It was like 2 days a week. And you just kind of learn a little bit about just the basics, just how you start the machine, like how you make even just like your weld machine work, how you clean your metal off, just like super like, you know, just all the basics. And it was taught by like a really, really nice guy. His name's Dave Willie. He's a Eastern Shore man. He's awesome. Shout out Dave. But
Heck yeah.
he really like, he really took his time with his students, made sure, I think there were probably only like 12 of us in the class or something, but, made sure we each were understanding everything. And, by the time that class was over, knew how to start up our machines, knew how to run like a couple different like basic positions, knew how, heat and speed factor into what you're welding. Like, like heat draws, I'm sure, like with the welding you've done, like here at the shop and everything, like heat will draw your pieces, like it'll pull it and stuff. So you
This
really,
weird stuff.
I know it's crazy. You'll get something all squared up. And then if you don't weld it like in the right order, like you don't run it in the right like direction, like it'll be like hanging off.
Oh yeah.
The whole thing will be like bowed off to the side.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he like really made sure that we understood that, because you'd tack a piece up and you'd weld and the whole thing would be like super crooked. And you're like, wait, how did that happen?
It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
My favorite part is like when I'm welding like a roll cage and there'd be like a tube clamp or something, and I run some tacks on it, and I'm like, all right, cool, I'll weld it all up. Nothing fits.
Yeah.
Nothing fits.
Yeah, you got all the measurements like just right, and then you go to put it on. It's like,
how? Unless
yeah.
you like jig it up or something, it's like you take your time with say you know way more than I do, but like maybe don't weld the whole thing all at once.
Yeah,
maybe weld a little stitch and go to the other side.
So when you're working on like pipes, so I did like all pipe welding. So it's like, a lot of times you'll do like 4 tacks around it, and then you've got to do like opposite sides. You got to do like, top right, bottom left. Like you can't just do like the whole thing in a circle.
That's my favorite.
Because when you're done, you're gonna have like, you'll start off with like, a straight run, and then you're gonna end up with a not straight run.
Clearly why my stuff never fits.
So yeah, I can give you a couple pointers on that.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
I'm sure you can.
Yeah. So
that's killer. So you started at Warwick.
Yep.
Was it interesting to like actually hold a grinder and like because there's more things than just a torch, and making sparks.
Yeah.
It's like it. That's what blows my mind. It's like the first time I held a grinder, I'm like, oh dang, to do this, I have to do this too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, like cleaning your metal is a huge part of like the prep process and everything. And I do not come from a blue collar family. Like I had no experience with power tools or anything. And, I would kind of like joke like the blue collar Barbie, you know what I mean? I'm in there with like my like pink nails. Like I have like hot pink, like acrylic nails on and stuff. Like, and I'm like, how does this thing even work? You know what I mean? But you got to be careful. That stuff's dangerous. You know what I mean? Like a grinder is a lethal weapon if you're not using it right.
Right. And you're working with around compressed cylinders and things like that.
Yeah.
It's like the whole thing. That's what blows my mind the most when I found out that you were doing it. Was like, that's the least expected thing I would ever think you'd do.
Yeah, the whole environment, and it was when I told my parents that I wanted to, sign up for that class, they kind of were like, oh, okay. Like they were supportive. Don't get me wrong. Like they were just definitely a little like, okay. Like
didn't take it serious probably.
Well, they were just
it'll
kinda
phase
like,
out.
They were like, I mean, yeah, they're like, if that's, if you want to give it a shot, they kind of looked a little bit into it. And, my dad saw that there was definitely a lot of career opportunity in welding. He saw like that there's such a need for welders. And so he was like, I mean, yeah, if that's something you want, give it a shot. The class wasn't too expensive. And at that point I had been out of school for, I guess, a little over a year. And I signed up for 2 like academic classes at Warwick too, just to give it another shot, maybe see if, classes were back in person at that point, just to be like, oh, maybe I'll get my associate's degree or something. And I remember the academic classes were on Monday and Wednesdays, and my welding classes were on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I think they really saw like that I was serious about it when I'd come home from the academic classes, and they'd be like, oh, how was school? Like how was class? And it was fine,
okay.
I had nothing to say about it. Like, oh yeah, it was fine, whatever. And then I'd come home from the welding class, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, like guys, like look what I did today. You know what I mean? Like showing them pictures of like the little pieces I built, or like some of the welds that I ran. I'd be like, oh, this was like the beginning of the class, even versus the end, like in just like a few hours, like I really started to get the concept, or like next week we're doing this. Like I'm so hyped to even try, like I learned how to use a grinder today, or I was using a power drill, but I was like, it was so interesting to me. And like, I was loving working with my hands and like, just like building something. It was my first time really having an experience like building something and like seeing my work, like progress in front of me. Like being able to see that was awesome. And I was all about it. And so I think they saw just in that short period of time, like, oh, like, she's really into this. Like she's actually taking it pretty seriously. Like I think a lot of people, thought it was gonna be like some fun little class I did, and then
fizzle out.
Yeah. And then they saw that I was like really getting into it. And I was like, on my own time, like researching like next steps I could take to, continue on with it. And there's a lot of different ways you can get into the trades. Like, you can join a union, become an apprentice, and that's like a great option. You're getting paid to learn basically throughout their program. It's just, again, I said I've always kind of struggled with patience a little bit, and I was like, no, like I want to get in there, like
As quickly as
I
possible.
want to get in head first, like I want to be on the job site, like I am ready to like learn as much as I can.
That's amazing.
And I found out about Tulsa Welding School. They got a couple campuses like all over the country, and they got a campus in Jacksonville, Florida. And so I asked my parents. I was like, hey, I was like, I think I want to go look at this school. Like, and they're like, okay, well, they had seen that I had like, even with welding, you still get like grades and stuff. You get graded on, how much you're understanding the concept, like how your work's progressing. And I ended up getting like pretty good grades throughout that welding class. And the teacher had said, he's like, yeah, I really think you need to like stick with this. Like,
Really?
you could, yeah, he was like, you really could, like,
Shine.
you could really make like a really great career for yourself with this. And I was like, yeah, like that's what I want to do. And I told him, and it's so funny, like when I look back on the fact that I said this, because I was saying this having no idea what it even meant, but I was like, yeah, I'm like, I want to be a travel pipe welder. Like, I had no idea what that even entailed, but I knew that like on social media, when I started like looking into different welders on social media and stuff, I knew that I was seeing they were making like a lot of money and their life just looked fun. Like, I
Oh,
was like, oh,
yeah.
this looks fun. Like,
And the-
working for a company and like getting sent all over the country to work on, these like big badass jobs. I was like, this looks awesome. Like,
Oh, yeah.
this looks badass. Like, I want to get into this. Again, having no idea what like a true day to day looks like, social media's a highlight reel.
Oh, yeah.
And having no idea like what it really looked like. I'm like, yeah, I was like, I'm gonna be a traveling pipe welder. Like,
Little did you know that they're in a hole all day.
like
With
I'm
a back
like, yeah,
truck
I'm like, this is
sucking mud out of the hole while you're down there underneath there holding your breath.
yeah, I'm like, this is gonna be awesome. Like,
Yeah.
and it's like, again, now I know like what that entails, and I get it. It's still like, I'm glad that I'm almost like thankful for my ignorance on it. You know what I mean?
Because if had you known, you might not have wanted to do it.
Maybe not. Like, I think I definitely knew it was gonna be hard. It's not like I thought it was just gonna be, like La La Land out there. Like, I knew it was gonna be hard work. And I knew I was gonna be getting dirty, and I kind of figured I'd probably be working with all older men like all the time. Like, I knew I probably wasn't gonna like fit in, but I was like, I don't care. Like, I think this could be like a lot of fun to do. And it was like we were talking about before we sat down. I also like when I looked at long term, we were talking about like college and everything, like paying all this money for a degree that when you look at like, when I looked like where did I want to be like in 10 years, you know what I mean? I'm like, well, at some point, like, I want like a family of my own. Like, I want kids, like I want to get married. And I didn't really want to like, that was another thing of not really wanting to go through with the college degree is I was like, like, I don't want to, and I know this, like, I feel like it's like a controversial thing to say nowadays. I was like,
Say it.
I don't want to spend all this money on a degree that like I do not plan on using for that long. Like, my goal is to like, raise kids and like have a family. And I was like, I don't want to put all this money into a degree that I might use for a couple years. And then, obviously, you never know like where life's going to take you, but stay home for a few years with kids or work part-time and then like maybe never even go back to like working full-time. Like, I didn't know, but I saw how quickly, like if I played my cards right, how quickly I could get into trade work, make decent money for myself, see like different parts of the country and just experience like a lot of new things without putting years and years into school. You know what I mean? Without putting years into having to get there. I'm like, if I can play my cards right, like I can get into this trade and get where I want to be. And, whenever like the time comes, it's time like to have kids or like, start a family or whatever. Like, I won't feel like, oh, well, I just got my degree. Like, I need to put a few more years into this. Like, or, oh, I'm not ready yet. Like, I need to get this promotion first. Like, which if that's like, your thing, that's great. Like, I have a lot of respect for people like putting that kind of dedication into their careers. But like, I just knew that wasn't me. And so I ended up looking at the welding school and I was like, oh, yeah, like,
This is for me.
yeah, this is it. Like, I remember walking through the shop. I actually, my brother and his wife went with me to like
Really?
tour it. Yeah, because we were driving. We've been on a family vacation in Florida, and we are going to be driving through Jacksonville.
Okay.
And I was like, you guys think we could like stop off at this campus and like I can take a quick tour? And they were like, yeah, sure. And I remember my sister-in-law saying that we're like walking through the shop, and it's, there's like 50 grinders running at once, and it's like so loud in there.
Sparks are flying.
Yeah, you're like seeing sparks fly over the booth and everything. And she said that, I was kind of walking up ahead of them with the tour guide, and she said like she and my brother were like, oh my God, like, what is going on in here? But I'm like, this is awesome. Like, I'm going to go here. Like,
I love
this is happening. And then 2 months later, I started the program down there. Like in those 2 months, I found a place to live, moved down to Jacksonville. Got like a job to do while I was in school, and then I think it was a 7-month program, and you go through different phases in the program. You learn just, again, there's so many different like ways you can go with pipe welding, but they kind of give you, it's like,
do they specialize in pipe welding?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, specialty is like, it's a pipe welding school. Like you're going to be welding, like you'll start the first couple or the first, I think it was like 2 or 3 phases. You're just doing flat plates, because you need to learn the technique first. It's like the challenge of like welding pipe is that like you're not running on like a straight line, basically. Even if it's like, a straight cut, you got to move with it,
Oh, yeah.
When you're on a job site, you can't move the piece around. You got to move around the piece that you're working on. So, they like specialize in pipe welding. So whether someone wants to be like a rig welder where they got a flatbed truck with a machine on the back, all their own tools and everything, like, and they're out there on the pipeline, you know what I mean? Like out in Texas on that
Fire
pipeline.
me up.
Yeah, like they're on the pipeline, like, or whether you want to do like something where I did where, like I didn't have like a machine in my truck or anything, I had a set of like kind of my own tools, like the stuff which the company will provide you with a lot of stuff, but if you want like the nicer version or some tools you get, not because you need them, just for the convenience, I'm sure there's a lot of tools you have bought like for your shop before that you're I don't need this, but like this would make my job a whole lot easier if I had it. Like,
that's actually one of my questions later on.
Yeah, there's a couple things you'd be like, oh, like that's $100, but like, that would really best make
$100 ever spent.
No, exactly. Because there were some tools I remember like I'd put off buying, and I'd be like, nah, I'm not spending the money on that. And then I'd see like one of my coworkers like have one and use it, and people are pretty like in the trade. I felt like people were always pretty generous with like, oh, if they have like an extra, like a grinder or something, and, or like, oh, my battery just died, like, and you're not near your like toolbox or whatever, like, oh, here, take one of mine. Yeah. Like people are pretty generous with that stuff. Like I never really worked with anyone that was super stingy. Like, they knew they could trust you to get it back in their toolbox by the end of the day. Like, they were cool with it, but you don't want to like mooch off someone just like constantly using their stuff. So I was like, I remember like one time like borrowing something and, being like, yeah, I gotta buy one of these. Like, I used it once, and I'm like, yeah, I gotta buy. Like, I'm spending the money on that.
Right. Can I ask you, was it a tungsten grinder?
No.
Okay.
I guess again, it kind of depends on like the setting that you're in. But I always would just, I only did one. I did mostly stick welding, but the only TIG job I ever did, like when you need like a tungsten, I always would just I'd get like a diamond disc for a grinder, like I don't know how common those are to be used, but one of my like buddies in the field was like, oh, you need a diamond disc, like,
okay.
And then again, I don't know if this is like OSHA, like I don't know if I could get like in trouble. Obviously I don't work for them anymore, they can't get me in trouble now, but it's one of those things you do and you're like, I don't know how safe this is, but it's a lot faster than doing it the right way, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, what is the right way, a tungsten grinder, I guess?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like
multiple ways to skin a cat, like you said earlier.
Exactly, yeah, and we would just like put the disc on the grinder and like hold the grinder down on a table and like use a power drill if you had one.
I do that all the time.
Yeah, sometimes if I didn't have the drill, I'm like, I'm working with like short tungsten, like trying to keep my using my hand
as it's burning you through the gloves.
Yeah, I'm like, that
stuff heats up
like,
quick.
I'm like, oh, this could take my finger off if I sneeze right now. It's taking my finger off. Yeah, and that was another thing in school. They're really trying to teach you like the risk of the stuff you're working with. You know what I mean? Like, okay, kids, we're working with electricity and metal, like, let's not have wet gloves. You know what I mean? Like, if you sweat through your leather gloves, you can shock yourself. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like some stuff that sounds so basic and so, like, common sense. But sometimes when you're in the groove, you don't think about it. You know what I mean? Like,
100%.
There were plenty of times I, like, sat myself quick, and it's like you do it, and you're like,
that's right. I am like, welding with electricity. I forget all the time.
Yeah, or, like, you weld something, and you're just not even thinking, and then like rest your arm or you pick up a piece that you just weld, it's like 800 degrees, you know what I mean? You don't even think about, and then it's like you think about it as you feel your skin peeling off.
Oh
Like,
yeah, I just did this the other day thinking about our podcast. I was welding. I actually did 2 spicy TIG welds because I was like, I
yeah.
think I thought you mostly TIG welded.
No,
But
I got like certified in carbon and stainless.
okay.
So like I had my certs to do it, just like the company wanted me to have that, so that if a job came up that they wanted to send me on, like I was ready for it. But I only ended up doing one job that was about 2 months long.
Okay.
Actually like out in the field doing TIG welding. The rest
Wow.
was all stick welding.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Well, anyhow, that's interesting. I thought you mostly TIG welded. So the other day I was running through the motions and I
Yeah.
was like, well, this would be nice to remember what to do.
Yeah, refresh on it. Yeah.
Spicy. And I'm welding the heck out of this tube clamp for this cage thing. And I'm like, have to go to the other side to this other thing. And I lean my arm down, not even near the weld, right? I'm cognizant of that.
Yeah.
Touch the ground.
Yep.
The ground cable was
Hot.
real
Very
hot.
hot. Yep.
Yeah, it's still.
Yeah, I was gonna say it
it's
probably
still
got
red.
you. Yeah. Oh, I have like a couple like little like scars or just like stuff where I either like got a cut or like a burn. My like there's always those times where like people can tell you 1,000 times, hey, don't do it, but you're not gonna learn not to do it until you do it to yourself.
Earned by experience.
Yeah, exactly.
This.
Earned by experience. Yeah,
Yes.
and a lot of times, I guess in trade work, it might end up with like a scar or two.
Yeah, that's funny. Anybody could tell you a million things, but
Yeah.
until you
Yeah, don't do that.
do it
Don't do
yourself,
that. Yeah.
that's what solidifies it.
Yeah, it's like a kid, you know what I mean? It's like you can tell them 1,000 times, like, don't play with that, until they learn why you're telling them not to. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
sometimes you just gotta learn for yourself. And with welding, it like emits UV rays, like you can get burned. It's like why you gotta cover up, like why you gotta wear long sleeves, like even with stick welding, there's sparks, like they can land on you. TIG welding's so clean, a lot of times you're like, oh, I'll just wear a t-shirt, like leave the arms out. Yeah, then you get a sunburn. And I remember I was in school, and this is just like, I look back and I'm like, oh my God, like why did I do this? And I would just wear, because we were TIG welding and I wasn't really worried about sparks, I had a flannel on and a tank top under it. Well, it's Florida in Jacksonville in the summer. Like, it was hot in that building. You know what I mean? It was like a big, like, tin building. It's like a toaster in there. You're working with, like, heat all day long. Like, I'm sweating. And I had, like, 30 minutes left before the end of the day. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so hot.
And you can't run like a fan directly on you
No.
because then it'll blow your shielding
Yeah,
gas away.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
There's
So it's like,
complications to this
it's
stuff.
like you can't just like, I'll put the fan on high. Like, it doesn't work like that. You just
Yeah.
kind of got to suffer through it. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to take the flannel off for the last 30. It's 30 minutes. That's the famous last word. It's 30 minutes. I'll be fine. I gave myself sun poisoning because for
kidding?
30 minutes, because I had a tank top on, and so there was a sliver of skin right here where my hood didn't, like my hood came to like, right about there. There was about like probably like a 2-inch strip of skin between the bottom of my hood and then the top of my shirt. And I'm working on a piece like right kind of at eye level with me. So that light is just blaring on my bare skin for 30 minutes as I'm working on this. And I remember at the end of the day, my teacher walking by and he goes, were you working without like your flannel on? And I was like, yeah, like, sorry, no, I'm not, no, I'm not supposed to. I was like, it's so hot. And he goes, I ain't gonna say anything. He goes, you're gonna feel that one though. And I was like, I roll my eyes. I was like, oh, whatever. Like, he's just trying to scare me. You know what I mean? Like, I had to like go to the doctor for it.
No kidding.
Oh my God. It blistered and peeled like 3 times over the next like 2 weeks. Like, my skin literally, like that whole strip, like the skin literally like bubbled up and then like peeled off, and then it did it again like twice. Like, I thought that I thought when you got a burn, like once it like blistered and peeled, it was no. It like peeled off, and then as the skin like it like bubbled again and like peeled off. It hurt. I couldn't sleep at night. Like,
That's gnarly.
I still like when I get like some like sun in the summertime and I get like a tan, you can kind of still see like the burn mark.
Really?
For months it was like clear as day, like the scar from it. Yeah. And it was just one of those things. I remember my parents, I remember sending them a picture, and I think it was my dad was like, I can't believe like one of the teachers wouldn't tell you, you know what I mean? Like that's dangerous. And I go, oh, they did. I'm like, they did. And he's like, well then why'd you do it? And I'm like, I just had to learn for myself.
Summers in Jacksonville.
Yeah, it was just one of those things. I was hot and uncomfortable, and I paid the price for my own stupidity. Like, they always tell us, you got to keep your skin covered, keep your skin covered. And I was like, I just convinced myself that 30 minutes was nothing. And
Bet you won't do that again.
yeah, never did that one again. That was
Yeah.
just, I just remember it was just so funny when Ed goes, I can't believe they wouldn't like, tell you not to do that. And I go, oh, they did. They told us every day not to do that. And
You broke the rule.
yeah, I broke the rule and I paid and I think
Part of it.
that's why my teacher probably was just like, I ain't saying anything, but you're gonna feel that one, I
Yeah.
promise you. And I'm like, okay, whatever. No, he was right.
Part.
It was horrible. And I'd see like I had friends in like phases like behind me and stuff. They'd be like, oh, they'd come in like a t-shirt, and I'm like, listen, I'm not trying to mom you, but I did this, I learned my lesson. Like, take it from me, please.
Yeah.
And then it's the same thing though. Sometimes you just gotta learn for yourself.
100%.
Yeah.
There was one time my buddy was TIG welding real quick. I took something somewhere. I took my little Jeep to the metal shop, and my buddy, one of my tack welds broke, and he just tack welded real quick. And I was pretty far away, but I happened to like just be watching, and he struck the arc.
Yep.
And I'm watching it, and
Yep.
you always hear about welder's flash. I've never got it. I've tack welded at many things. Just close my eyes or like whatever.
Safety squint. That's yeah.
Yep. Well, that was the first time I ever experienced that, and
Oh, it's insane.
it's
crazy.
totally different than the sunburn, but it's one of those things where you don't realize that there's a danger there.
Yeah.
At the time, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, it didn't seem like a big deal.
Yeah.
But the next morning I woke up, I could barely see.
Yeah, no,
it
it can like take you out for a few days. It can really, really mess you up. That's like
safety.
Yeah, it feels like you got like sand in your eyes even. Like
You ever had
it's
it?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Especially like, if you're working in a small space and someone's welding like on something near, like you've got your thing that you're working on, they got theirs. You might not be paying attention, and you finish what you're doing and you pop your hood up for a second and you're not paying attention, right as they like strike their arc, and it's like you said, you're not even meaning to, but you're accidentally staring right at it as they do it. Or even like the reflection off of something, or it's like in your peripheral, like you think that because you're not looking at it, like someone's working right there, and so you're just kind of like looking past it at something else. Well, it's still getting in like your peripheral vision, and then like you're like on a good day, or like on a not too bad a case, you wake up the next day and you feel it. On a bad one, you wake up in the middle of the night because it's burning so bad.
Okay, well, see, mine was very mild, and I knew it was mild because I woke up and I'm like, man, my eyes are hot and they hurt.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
hell.
It feels like it's like heat. It's almost like it's like a sunburn on your eyes.
Like you said, sandpaper, and like they're watering, and I'm like, I barely see. I actually drove barely with sunglasses on.
Yeah.
To Walmart to get some special, not wasn't special, but it was like some eye drop thing that helped. And by noon, I was okay.
Yeah.
But it was the worst I've ever experienced. And I'm like, you don't really think about it. It's just a little blue flash, but and he's down there like 4.5, 5 feet away.
Yeah, no, it's yeah,
insane.
no, it does its damage, and like, over time, like that takes its wear and tear on your eyes in general. Like I remember, there'd be like older guys in the trade, and there's different shades you can have on your hood, like different darknesses for your lenses, and some of them would be working with a lens that was so light. I'm like, how is that not blinding you? But it's because over time, you know what I mean? Like their eyes, like it's just the wear and tear on their eyes were like, or they'd put my hood on and they're like, how can you see through this thing? It's so dark. And I'm like, because I was like, I'm still new at this. Like I haven't, burned my eyes enough yet to like, my eyes are still in decent shape. But like, over time, it's like they need a lighter shade because they can't see through the darker shades. Like they can't see well enough to like see what they're doing through a darker one. They've got to get those lighter shades, and it's just like that's such a like plain example of like what it's doing to you over time, like welding all the time. And there are jobs that you'll be on where you might spend hours just getting like the fit ready. Some welders, they do all their own fitting, or some welders, they never fit. Like all they do is weld. Like the one and only thing they do is just weld. And then on some jobs, like you're expected to do more, you're expected to be helping with the setup, like chain falls, getting tools set up. Sometimes you got to figure out, okay, we're working up in like the, like the rafters of a building or something. We got to get this 20-foot stick of pipe up here, but we got 3 other pipes to work around, all going every which way. Like, how do we get this up there in the position we need, fitted up, tacked up so that the welder can do his job, like.
It's a lot more than just holding a torch.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw that stuff firsthand in my little stint of industrial work. But
Yeah,
it's way more than just And that's actually one of the things I wanted to ask you too. I don't want to get too far away from
Yeah.
your school part of
Yeah.
getting into it though.
No worries.
But yeah,
Sorry,
there's a
I
lot
ramble real
more.
bad.
No, me too. I can get off on a tangent quick, but there was a lot more to welding than just holding a torch and anyhow. But I want to hear the finished story about your school and getting back in, like how it all started. So
Yeah.
you
So.
were talking about your sunburn and being in Jacksonville,
Yeah.
and at what point that was kind of early on.
That was yeah, that was probably like halfway through. Again, it was like a 7 month program, so it was probably like 4 or 5 months in.
Okay, so you were getting your bearings straight and you knew right and
Oh, yeah,
wrong.
again, I knew I
Okay,
wasn't
okay.
supposed to do that, and I did it anyways. I think I didn't think it was gonna be that bad for only 30 minutes. I knew I couldn't do that all day, and then no, 30 minutes was far too long.
Yeah, 7 months seems like a fast program.
It was fast. It was you had to like really put in the time, and some people in the trade they really speak down on school because they're like, oh, like you don't learn enough, you don't know, kids go to school and they think they know everything, getting out of school, like, you don't, and that's very, I mean, it's very true. Like when you get out of school, you know how to do one thing, and that's weld. You know what I mean? Where a lot of companies expect you to know more. You know what I mean? Like you need to know how to do some fitting. Excuse me. You need to know, how to run like different tools, different. There's so much more to it than like just burn and rod. You know what I mean? Like, and so I'm trying to think, like, I don't know. People, again, everyone, like, you'll be in a class of like 30 students or something, and every single one of you might do a completely different job, like at the end of that program. You know what I mean? Like, most people do. The school does help you kind of find a job. They have like a whole department of like, when you're about 5 months in, helping you start to find like, they're okay, like, where do you want to go with this? Do you want to go on the road? Do you want to find a shop to work in? If so, like, do you want that here? Do you want that in your hometown? Like, like, where are you trying to go with this?
That makes sense.
Yeah, and so I knew I really, really wanted to do road work, and like traveling like on the road. I wanted to, like I wanted to experience that lifestyle really bad. Like I wanted to, because when you do travel work, you get paid more because you're away from the house. You get per diem, like to help you pay for like the money's supposed to be like for like hotel and food and stuff. But if you play your cards right, you can profit off of your per diem. And so I was like, I really want to do that. Like I want to get paid to travel. Like that seemed like, like that's like the deal right there. You know what I mean? Like I want to go see. Like I hadn't traveled a ton. I was like, if I can get a company to pay for my travel, you know what I mean? Like that would be awesome. And it was like it was insane. And so I like, again, it's the whole thing of like, I'm saying I want to be a travel welder, not even knowing what like half that is gonna, like entail. And I remember one of my teachers coming up to me, and he was like, hey, he's like, you said you wanted to travel, right? And I'm like, yeah, like I really want to do some travel work. And he's like, all right. He's like, well, go talk to this teacher when you get a chance today. He might have like a contact for you. And I was like, okay, like, thanks so much. And so I went up to the guy. I was like, hey, I was just a teacher that I didn't have. He was like another phase or something. And I was like, hey, so-and-so told me to come talk to you. I'm really interested in traveling. He said you might know someone who's looking for someone, like we were talking about. It's all like who you know. And he's like, yeah, a buddy of mine is a foreman for a refrigeration company. They're looking for someone who's willing to travel. Like he's having really, really hard time finding people who are willing to be on the road full time. And I'm like, okay, well, like that's what I want. And he's like, all right. He's like, I'll talk to your teacher. He's like, I'm going to probably have you like not doing those projects for the next couple weeks. He's like, I'm going to have you come like work in my aisle. And he's like, because when you get hired by a welding company, a lot of times it's not even like an interview. It's normally just a weld test. Like they don't, they don't care about who you are.
Yeah.
They just care if you can weld or not.
Right.
Like, can you, because different jobs will get either x-rayed or you'll have like bend tests. Some of them are just visual where they just look at the weld and make sure it looks like structurally sound. But sometimes you'll have jobs where they have to get x-rayed because they're like high pressure or something. So, your weld has to be like pretty much perfect. And so he's like, all right, he's like, I'm going to have you come practice your test with me for a couple, the next couple weeks before I give you this contact, like, cause he's like, I'm not sending you to make me look bad, like if you can't do this, you're not getting that guy's number.
Makes
because
sense.
like, I don't want to send him someone who's going to make me look bad, and I understood. I was like, okay, got it. So for the next couple weeks, I was just in his aisle all day long, practicing what that test was. I think it's like 2-inch pipe. So it's smaller pipe. I want to say it was like schedule because the schedule will be like the thickness. I don't know if that's like I don't know if that's like common knowledge or not.
No,
But
no, we should definitely say that.
yeah, so it's like the schedule will be like how thick the actual like metal is that you're working on. I want to say it was like schedule 40, I think. So
Okay. So like quarter inch.
no, probably like thinner, I would say. Like
Okay.
it's decently thin. So like also like schedule 40 on 2-inch pipe is thinner than schedule 40 on 10-inch pipe. So like it goes up like I don't know like the exact ratio.
Incrementally.
Yeah, but like
Okay.
it goes up with that.
That makes sense.
And yeah, I think that was I'm pretty sure that was like that was the test or something. And it's got to be in like a certain position. It's just at like a 45-degree angle, so you got to be able to work around it.
Yeah.
And
So when you're explaining it, you're saying that the end is beveled to a 45,
yeah, so the end is
and you push the two together, right?
yep, yeah, and then you have to tack that piece at a 45-degree angle. So like you're not welding it flat, you can't turn it, so like you can't turn it to be in like the best position. Like you have
Yeah.
to be able to work around like
So you're welding it like this.
yep, yeah.
Two pieces, cut it up like this.
Yep.
Yeah, and then you can't move that piece.
Correct.
You got to work around it.
Yeah, you can't move it up, down, like you can't break it off the tack and like rotate it or anything. Like you got to leave it how it is and be able to do it, all around. And so I remember practicing that with him, and after like 2 weeks, he was like, "All right, like I think you're ready now. I think you passed this test. I'll give you the guy's phone number." And I was like, "Okay, like thank you so much. Like,
Heck yeah.
thank you." Like
in.
I know I was so hyped. I was like at this point I was probably like a month from being done school.
And at this point, what are you like 19?
I think I was 21.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I was 21.
All right.
I just turned 21, and I was like, okay, like awesome, like,
Party
thank
time.
you so much, like let's go. And so I called the guy, he's like, yeah, so and so. He told me you'd be calling. I got you. He's like, let's go ahead and set you up for a test on this date. And he's like, we actually do want to have you come into the office for an interview though, next week, like as well. And I was like, okay, sounds good. Which I hadn't, that was I wasn't really expecting that, but I was like, okay, like that's fine. And I remember, I was like so nervous. I'm like, cause I knew that I didn't know a whole lot other than just welding. Like I knew that I knew how to do one thing, and I knew how to do that, in the one setting I'd been doing it in school, like I knew like once I got into the field it was a whole different ball game. So I'm like, all right, like do not like, I knew what was going to like ruin it. Cause other people had kind of told me like, they're like, you cannot act like you know everything. They're like, do not lie about what you know on your resume. Because some people would be like, oh, well, say that you have this experience, say that you do this. And it's like, no, they're going to know if you lie. You know what I mean? You're going to get out there and you're just going to make a fool of yourself because they're going to be able to tell that you don't have that experience. Like, be humble, be honest about what you do and don't know. And I'm trying to think. I think the interview was like the day after my test. So like the test hadn't even been like, they didn't even know if I'd passed or not. So going into this interview, it's like, okay, well, like, did I even pass
Hope
the
I
weld
did a good job.
test? Or not? Like, and if I didn't, maybe I can like really wow them, and then they'll still want to hire me even if I failed the test.
Right.
And so I go in. It was like, I think it was like the general superintendent and one of the engineers on the project that they were going to be like first sending me on, and they just again they kind of reiterated that they were having a hard time finding people willing to be on the road. So they made sure that I understood, like working for them, like I would never be in the same place for long. Like I'd always be going. And I'm like, yeah, like that's what I want. Like that's like, I have no like responsibilities anywhere. Like this is like, I got into this to do this work. And they're like, okay, like, good to know. Kind of asked like, why I got interested in it in the first place. And I just was like, college didn't really work out for me. I just,
That money.
I know I didn't want to just like in the interview be like, cause I want to make some money. You know what I mean? I'm trying to be like, oh, like I like working with my hands. I like building stuff. And they're like, okay, like, well, like, let's go through, we looked through your resume. We see you don't really have any experience in like construction or anything, like, do you have anything to say on that? And I thank God that he like put this in my mind to say at the time, because this was not something I had prepared at all. Like I had not thought about this prior, but I like, it just kind of came to me in the moment. And I honestly think this might be why they hired me. Like, even though my test did pass, but like, hiring someone with no experience, especially for what that job ended up being, like they really like took a gamble on me. And I am so thankful. And I'm so, again, thankful that like God put this on my heart to say, because I just said, I was like, yeah, I have no experience in construction at all. I have no experience in any blue collar work. I cannot promise that I will know how to do anything except for weld. I said, I like all that I've learned in school is how to weld. I said, I can't promise that I'm going to do it perfectly every time. But what I can promise you guys is that I'm going to show up on time every single day, and I'm going to give it my all. Like, that's what I can guarantee.
That's
And
what
they were like,
every employer wants to
and
hear.
they were like, okay. They were like, got it. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, you're coming
in.
with us. Yeah. Because,
Hell yeah.
and I think it's just because, like, work ethic is just something you can't teach.
I
Like,
know.
it's everything else can be taught. And like, when I said that, they were like, yeah, they said, we can teach you how to do everything except for how to be a hard worker. Like, if you can promise us that you're going to work hard, like,
You're
we
in.
got you. We will teach you. Everything else is teachable. Everything
Mm-hmm.
else, you could, excuse me, you can learn how to pull measurements. You can learn how to run the different power tools. You can learn how to pipe fit. Like, we got some great welders that can like really help you, like, because obviously it is going to be different, like in the field, it's not always going to be like, in your booth with your own space. Like sometimes you're going to be like real crammed in where you're working. Like
Mm-hmm.
other people can like help you figure that stuff out. Like no one else can figure out how to get yourself up into work every day like
Right.
that and how to show up with like a decent attitude too. Like, and so I really do think that like might be like why they hired me, just because I was really honest. I was like, I can't promise that I'll be good at anything.
That's half
Like,
the battle,
yeah,
though. One is
yeah,
being honest, and also just
yeah,
being like, true to yourself,
yeah.
and
I was like,
you are gonna show
yeah,
up.
I was like, I can promise that I'm gonna try. That's what I can promise you guys. Like
Yeah.
what I can guarantee is my effort, and and that's like really what a lot of it comes down to, though. You know what I mean? Like especially going into a trade where you don't have experience again, because like I said, if you join a union, you start as an apprentice. You're kind of doing all the like dirty work. You're sweeping floors, you're cleaning off the metal, you're carrying around someone else's tools for them all day. Like, and that's a great way to learn, because like you're seeing it, like you're seeing how the stuff gets done firsthand. You're seeing how different people do it. Like, you know, 1,000 ways to do the same thing. Like, the more you can see what other people do, the more you're gonna learn. Because it's like when you're doing something, it's like, all right, this is not working for me. You can think, okay, but I saw so and so try this. Let me try it, and it might work. Or like, okay, typically I run like around this heat for this kind of thing, but right now that's just not enough. Like, if you run too hot, you might burn through the piece, which, you can always kind of like fill it back in. It's just, you gotta know what you're doing to do that. And it's like, all right, typically I wouldn't like run that hot, but so-and-so is doing it. And, his welds were looking,
He's doing it for a reason.
yeah, his welds were looking great. So like, maybe I just need to like, just try it. And then you do it and you're like, oh, like, wait, that actually runs so much smoother than I thought it would. Like, so it's just, learning from the people around you is like, that is the best way to learn. That is like, watch other people do it. And that was even something in school they teach us. They're like, if you're working on something and you're really like, it's just not coming out how you want it, go to someone else's booth and just watch them for a minute. Like, walk through the aisles, watch someone doing the same project you're doing, take note of what settings do they have their machine on, where are they positioning themselves, like, do they have their arm propped up like to stabilize themselves, like, like, what are they doing that you're not? Try it. It might not work for you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
But it might.
but it might work.
Yeah.
And there'd be times, it's you kind of like your pride gets in the way. You're like, no, like I gotta figure this out. It's like,
Yeah,
that's you're like, I gotta figure this out myself.
I agree. I've done the same thing.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm all self-taught, but one of my buddies, I do a lot where metal comes in all the time, and I'm looking at some really nice stuff,
Yeah.
mostly all the time, and I'm like, I'm talking to the welders, and I'm like, hey, how are you doing that? And they're like, this and this, it's easy, man. You got it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, I'm doing that. What's wrong? Everything's set right. And so one day I happened to be at the welder shop picking something up. And I said, dude, he had his welder all rigged up. It was all on. Everything's ready to go. And I said, will you do me a favor real quick? Weld those two pieces of aluminum. Take those two pieces and just zeus them together how you would normally do it.
Yeah.
And he says, you know what? Okay, no problem. Goes over there, grabs a file, a real, like a coarse one. Like
Yeah. Well, it was probably like got like the blue handle on it. It's got like the pointed edge. Yeah.
He files both edges,
Yeah.
butts them up,
Clean it up. Yeah.
boom, 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 sauces it on. And I said, actually, before he even sauced it up with his torch, I said, you already taught me. I already know what I was doing wrong.
Yeah.
I'm
Not
taking
cleaning it off,
I'm
yeah.
taking a flap wheel to it, and I'm just grinding all that junk and the the fiber from the disc.
Yeah, it's
all the
getting in there.
crap is right
Yeah,
in there,
yeah.
and I'm getting black, gross, porousy welds, which they're okay, but you put some paint on it, it's fine.
Yeah. Hey, a
know.
welder, or what do they say? They say it's like a,
Paint will make it what it ain't.
yeah, it's something. It's like a paint and something will make a welder what he. I can't remember what the phrase is, but they'll be like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like a paint will make a welder what he ain't. Like,
Yeah. But right there, those just two little things. Just watching him do that little file, taught me everything I needed to know right there. So
Yeah.
in that case, it does help, you
Yeah.
know, and that is the cool part about this thing in particular is you can get better just by watching somebody else do something so minuscule they didn't even know they taught you.
Yeah, yeah, we were saying, like my husband, he rides dirt bikes sometimes and stuff. And when we were living in Georgia, he had like a buddy that they were working on a bike together. Like they were kind of like learning from each other how to like fix something. I don't know anything about that stuff, but how to fix something. And his buddy had a MIG welder in his garage, and I guess one time they were talking, and his buddy had asked like what I had been doing for work, and he was like, oh, like my wife actually was at like a traveling pipe welder. And he was like, wait, what? And he was like, wait, could she like come over here sometime? And he's like, I've been trying to like weld this piece. And he's like, I cannot figure out what I'm doing wrong. And he was like, yeah, like I'm sure she'd be happy to. And so, which I didn't even like have a ton of experience like MIG weld, like doing MIG welds and stuff. It just like, I never did it on the job. I got like certified in school, but it was never something I had to do like at work. But I still like, knew the basics of it. And I just kind of showed him, I'm like, yeah, I was like, you're working. And he like said, he's like, it doesn't need to be pretty. It just needs to hold. Like, it just needs to hold and me know it's not going to break off. And I was like, yeah, I hear you. And I just kind of showed him, like, I was like, this is what I would do. I said, I don't know anything about like this piece. It was like part of a frame for a dirt bike or something. And I said, I don't know anything about this stuff. I said, but if you're saying that it needs to hold like this much weight and impact, this is what I would do. You need to make sure that like you're getting good penetration on it. Like you don't just want the metal to be like sitting on top of the other metal. You know what I mean? Like it needs to burn and fuse together. And so I kind of like played with the settings on his machine a little bit. And, I maybe only welded for like 10 minutes or so, but he was like, oh my God, like, wait, like that makes so much more sense. And like you're saying, it's just, sometimes just watching, it's like we're saying, just watching someone else do it and to see like what you're not doing or just like what you're doing differently. And it can like completely change.
Or just one little thing you said, like he wasn't burning hot enough where it
Yeah.
wasn't actually fusing the metal. It was
Yeah.
just like bubbling on top.
Yeah.
And it's going to break right off. You
Yeah,
know
yeah,
that,
he'd be
but-
like, oh, he's like, this piece just keeps breaking off, or, like I feel like it's cracking, like the welds are cracking, and I'm like, okay, yeah, like it's
Probably not hot enough
Yeah,
or
like
something.
I was like, it's just an easy fix, like you've got the right idea, like
You're there.
yeah, I'm like, because he'd be like, why does it look like this, but yours looks like this, and I'm like, all right, I'm like, watch, and I took it's like a pen and paper, and I'm like, all right, I was like, when I'm doing this, I was like, this is the pattern I'm making, I was like, just try that real quick, and he did it, looked 1,000 times better. And he was like, oh my God. And I'm like, see, I'm like, it's easy. I'm like,
everything.
I was like, everything is the same, just a little bit different. I'm like, you were so close. Like,
And even pushing or pulling. You
Yeah,
know, it's like
yeah.
you can get totally different looking
oh,
welds.
completely. Yeah, exactly. And that's just like, that's like the fun part of learning. Like when you're first in it, you watch someone else do it and you think that you're doing exactly what they're doing. And it's coming out like yours is looking like, yours is looking horrible. It's like, it's all like, it's like clumps and you said there's like
Splatter everywhere.
it's like it looks horrible. There's like cold lap and it's like eating away at the side of the metal and you're like, all right, and then the guy next to you's got like dimes, you know what I mean, and you're like, all right, what gives?
Yeah.
And then you realize it's something as simple as just like pulling your arm back like 10 degrees, you know what I mean, just to get that rod angle a little bit different, or like even just turning your machine like up 5 degrees or moving just a little bit faster. Like the slightest thing can make such a huge difference. And earlier I was saying I've always struggled with patience, and that was something like welding really helped me with, was like, you got to be patient, because you know what I mean, especially if you're working on the same piece. I'm sure if you're working on thinner metal, you got to let it cool down. Like stuff gets too hot, you're just gonna like mess it up. And
hate sheet metal.
sometimes you gotta put the torch down for a minute, walk away. Like I remember like on the job one time, we were up in like, I've got like a harness on, we're working on like pipes up in a rafter, and it's hot, it's uncomfortable, those harnesses suck, you know what I mean, like you can't like move the way you want to. You got to be careful that you don't like drop a tool down 30 feet, you know what I mean, like you drop something, you gotta like go through the whole process of getting back on the lift, like clip it on and off to go down and get it. So you have to be so careful how you're moving, what you're doing, and something's just not going right, you know what I mean. And I just remember like one of my coworkers being, hey, he's like, just chill for like 5 minutes. And I was like, we got to get this done. He goes, you ain't getting shit done with what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Again, it's, you kind of got to like bite your tongue from it. I'm like, okay. Yeah. He's like, it's all good. He's like, it happens to everyone. He's like, just take a breather for a second. Like, just sit back, just chill, like sing a song in your head or something. You know what I mean? He's like,
Regroup.
just, yeah, take a minute. And I was like, okay, you're right. Cause like he could just see that I was getting, the same thing that everyone goes through. You get so frustrated and then you're only making it worse for yourself. So I was like, all right, you're right. So I like, stopped for a minute, took my gloves off, shook my hands out, like a few deep breaths. And I'm like, all right, go back in. Fine. It worked. I finished exactly what I needed to do. Like, and I did it right. You know what I mean? Just like, it's like, okay, I just needed to like lose the edge. I
Yeah.
just needed to relax, get in the zone. They always said that the rule of welding is ABC, always be comfortable. Like, I wasn't letting myself get comfortable. I wasn't letting myself, like, I wasn't taking the time to find a comfortable position to like be in. So, like I'm shaking because I'm not like, I don't have like my arm propped on anything or something. And it's like, sometimes it's the simplest fix that really
Yeah.
like
I've
helps you.
recently
Yeah.
learned that.
Yeah.
Like I'll spend more time rigging up something for my arm to sit on or like a clamp set up of a board or something to where, just like you said, and this is just me, years, it's taken me years to get to this point where I'm like, it's not about the finished product, it's about the process for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, I know when you guys are
Setup
doing this
is
stuff,
huge,
it's like, you're on a timeline, you're getting paid by the hour, the job's got to get done, I get that.
Yeah.
But like, sometimes though, it is just that taking that extra second to,
Yeah.
I've learned it. It was taking me years though to figure it out.
No, and it's again, like, it's hard. It's like, you're like, okay, I just want to get this done, but it's like, okay, but taking the extra 10 minutes to get yourself, like, you're gonna save, like, in the end, it's gonna go a lot faster if you take the time in the beginning to get yourself set up, get comfortable, like,
Then the weld will actually probably hold. You're not going to grind it back out for 3 hours.
Exactly. You're not gonna. Yeah, exactly. It's like when you're in a rush, like, you lay it, and okay, it's horrible. You got to grind it out, and then you redo it, grind out, redo it, and it's like, where if in the beginning you just like set yourself up, like, I remember my boss would always like, everyone, in that kind of work, everyone is always giving each other a hard time. Like, it's never ending, and like,
Was that something different? Getting used to like the banter and like the the talk and all that.
yeah, and like sometimes like earmuffs. Like, sometimes I just had to be like, I'm gonna pretend like I didn't hear them, just like, and especially being like the only like female normally like on the job site. Like, sometimes I'd hear stuff and I'm like, I could turn around and like explain to them how disrespectful that is. Like, but I was like, but you know what? Just gonna put on some earmuffs and pretend I didn't hear that. Yeah, I'm like, they don't care what I
They probably said it because you were there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna choose to ignore that one. Like,
Yeah.
And there'd be sometimes I'd kind of like, give them the look of like, really? Like,
I'm right here.
yeah, I'm right here. Like, do we have to say that? You know what I mean? Or like, all right, just like shut up.
Yeah.
But sometimes it was like, you know what? I didn't need to hear that, or like, I didn't need to know about what you were up to this weekend,
Right.
and now I know way too much about what you were up to this weekend. Like,
Yeah, I can only imagine
like-
that setting isn't very friendly for soft ears.
no, it's not, and yeah, and again, it all depends. Like, I met some like really great people in that trade. You know what I mean? Like, there are, especially when it comes to the older guys, a lot of them, like, someone would think it was like so awesome that I was doing it. They were just like, this is so, like, they're like, I've never had a girl on my crew before. You know what I mean? Or
I
like,
just want to pour wisdom into you.
yeah, they're like, oh my, like, you can do so much with this. You know what I mean? And it's like, I definitely, like, I believe, like, men and women's brains, like, they're wired differently. You know what I mean? Like, we are good at different things for a reason, and it's like, women are really good at like the fine tuning of things, I believe. Like, we're good at like fine detail, paying attention to like fine detail. And that was something that a lot of them would like take note on. They're like, you really notice like the small detail, and like, like your work benefits from it because like you take the time on the little things where, someone might like want to rush through it and not pay attention to those small details. And then their weld gets x-rayed and it's not passing because they didn't take the time just like to grind out that little bit of like debris in their weld, or like grind out like that little bit of rust or something, like, where it's like I'm noticing it and I'm like, it has to be, like, you get like perfectionist about it. Like,
one way.
Yeah, it's like, I'm like, oh no, like, I gotta, like, I don't want to redo this. So I'm gonna take the extra time to like try and get it perfect now so that I don't have to come back and redo this in 2 weeks when, they x-ray it and then it fails. And, then they're obviously like, and I knew going into this that this was going to be the case. It's just one of those things, like, you take it as it comes. Like, there were some guys that made it very clear that like they didn't feel women belonged in that work, for different reasons. And, actually, like, my favorite boss I ever had, like, he and I ended up having like a super honest conversation about it at one point. And I was like, I'm going to be honest. I was like, sometimes I think that like, you just don't love having like a girl on your crew. Like, I was like, I don't think you have anything like a personal problem with me. I said, I really sometimes think that like you just like kind of wish I wasn't here though. And he's like, I'll be honest. He's like, yeah, he said, because I was already on that crew when they hired him. And he was like, yeah, he said, when they told me that I had like a young woman on my crew. He's like, I was not happy about it. And he goes, but, and he was like, hear me out, listen. And again, like this, we had already been working together for a few months. Like, I'd never felt like mistreated by him or anything. So I was, I was like, all right, like, he's like, hear me out, like on why. And he's just like, we are on a job site with 200 other, trades workers, people doing everything, like HVAC guys, electrical guys, people doing drywall, painting, bricks, like, everything. And he's like, I don't know any of those guys. He goes, I know the men on my crew. He's like, I know that I can trust them to, be respectful of you and, not make comments to you that they shouldn't or X, Y, and Z. And he's like, I can't say that about the other, 100 and whatever people here. You know what I mean? He's like, I don't know them. I don't know their backgrounds. And he's like, so I have to pay extra close attention to who's around you, who's doing what, you know what I mean? Like if people are looking at you weird, like, like I got to make sure that you're safe. Like you're on my crew, you're my responsibility. And he's like, and you're an extra responsibility for me, like being a woman. And, it's like, he's like, not that I don't think you can hold your own. And he's just like, but yeah, he's like, you to a guy that's, a 6'5" dude who's 200 pounds, you know what I mean? Like, you can't put up a fight on that, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, like you can like, yell and scream at him or something, but you know what I mean? Like, this is a huge job site. Like, he gets you in a bad spot. Like, he's like, I feel like I got to keep an extra eye on you at all times. And he's like, not because I don't trust you, not because I don't think you can't do the work or keep up with everyone else, but he's just like, he's like, I don't have to worry about that with guys. Like, I don't have to worry about one of the other guys, you know what I mean? Like, getting them alone and, like, trying to do something that they shouldn't. And he's like, with, like, again, everyone else on this job site that I don't know who they are. Like, right. I don't know anything about their character. He's like, that's something I have to consider having women on my crew. And he's like, and that's why I don't prefer it. And I, it's like,
Makes sense.
it's the kind of thing. It's like, it's like, sucks that the world's that way. It sucks. That's something he even has to think about. But I'm like, no, like, I hear what you're saying because, like,
it's hard to be mad at that.
It's hard to be mad at the fact that, you know what I mean? Like, it's coming from, like a loving place.
Yeah, a genuine,
you know I mean? Yeah, like, a genuine place of, like,
genuine
do you know what I mean? He's just, like, like, especially, like, there was an older guy that I worked with for a long time, and he would always, like, tell me how much, like, I reminded him of his daughters. Like, you know what I mean? He had 2 daughters in like, their 20s, and, I think, like, for him even, it's, like, he feels the need then to take on kind of a protective role, like, not because he thinks, like, I need someone watching over me, but, like, he couldn't help it. He's just like, I've got daughters. Like, I spent 20 years raising them. You know what I mean? I spent 20 years looking out for the young women around me. Like,
yeah.
It's a scary world we live in.
It's no
like,
different than you at the park with somebody else's kid. You're gonna watch over them.
Exactly.
It's just kind of how it works.
It's like nature. You know what I mean? And so it's like, again, your pride gets in the way, and sometimes you just want to be like, I'm fine. Like, I can handle my own. Like, I can hold my own. But it's, and especially now, like, being a mom, being a parent, it's like you said, it's just like, you can't help it. Like, if you had the kids at the park and you see another kid that, like, you don't see where the parent is, you're kind of keeping an eye out, making sure they're okay. Like,
somebody approaches them, you're going to watch, hey, I don't think so, pal.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, it's like instinctual at that point. So it's like, especially now, like, being a parent myself, like, like, I understood at the time because there were times, like, I'd feel like I was, people are, like, looking at you weird, and it's, it's like not saying like, oh, I think I'm like some hot stuff on the job site, but when you're the only female there, like, out of 100 people
in weeks, they're on the road.
Yeah, they're on the road. Like,
yeah, I get
you know what
it.
I mean? It's like,
I completely
you know
understand.
what I mean? Like, I'm like, because at first, like, when I first got into it, and I'm like, well, like, I don't give them anything to look at, you know what I mean? I'm wearing, men's work pants, big baggy, like, everything, you know what I mean? I was like, well, that's weird. But then it's like you said, it's like, people don't need to have anything good to look at. It's just them knowing that I'm there, that, like, for some weirdos, that's enough for them to, like, want to take an extra look. And it definitely was uncomfortable. And it was something I had to consider going into. It was like, people are going to put some eyes on you sometimes. And, it's just going to be part of it. Like, you can ignore it. You can say something, like, it's just, it's unfortunately just how it is. Like,
you just don't see very many females in that line of work.
Yeah,
so
no,
I get it from all angles.
Yeah.
But I think it's freaking badass that you started into that, and then you got not only were you doing it, you were like badass at it.
Thank
so,
you.
like, I've seen some of your welds, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
It's insane. When you walk in the cup, so badass.
Thank you.
Yeah,
it's
I love
fun.
that.
It's fun. I definitely had, like, a lot of fun with it and everything. And I remember my first day on the job, the first job that I got was at the company, you know what I mean, had been contracted for this job. They were
What were you guys working on?
it was it was at a meat packaging plant in Wisconsin.
Okay.
So the company was based out of Jacksonville, it was a refrigeration company. And in that interview, they're like, "Yeah, we're going to be sending you to Wisconsin for probably like 2 months. We've got to replace like a main line in the refrigeration system. So we're going to be doing." They kind of walked me. They knew that like I didn't know all the terminology. They're like, "We're going to be doing a shutdown." So that's where the entire facility is going to be shut down for 48 hours. 48 hours being shut down for them, like that is a lot of money lost.
Yeah.
So like we are on a tight timeline. Like we have to get the whole system shut down. We have to get all the ammonia drained out. We've got to get the pieces like that old pipe down. We got to get the new pieces in, get them welded up, and get the system like get those welds checked, and then get the system fired back up within 48 hours. Like, and for how big it was, like you're thinking about like a building the size of say like a Walmart, that the whole place has to stay at like sub like 34, because they have raw meat all over the plant. And let me say, working in some place like that, it makes you kind of like question like
Everything.
makes you question like eating at restaurants a lot.
Oh,
You see
yeah.
some real nasty stuff. But I remember like walking through and there's like bins of like just like ground meat like in these oh my god, it was
Hopefully
so
that goes to the dog food plants.
no, it was
We'll just
actually
believe it goes to the dog food
no,
plants.
it was actually the company. I won't like call out the companies, but they like are the place that makes like all the meatballs for like some very well-known
Really?
chain restaurants. Yeah.
That's
And
the
it was one of those
worst.
things where it's like, no, like it like, you're like, I wish I didn't know where this was going. But you know what I mean? Like they so proudly are like, yeah, we do all the distributing for this place, this place, and this one. And you're like, no.
Yeah.
Like, after seeing
I
how
gotta
it's
see
handed,
this.
it's like, oh god, like
Yeah.
I wish I didn't see that. Like it
Won't be going there.
yeah, it's like, all right, like that was nasty. And so, there was work that had to be done leading up to it. So that's why it was like the project was 2 months in whole, because there was a lot of stuff like pipes that had to get in place. So it's like we're kind of getting everything set up. And then on the day of the shutdown, it's like that's when we're tying all the other pipes that we've been working on into this main line. And then for the next few weeks after, it's just kind of like clean up stuff. You know what I mean? It's getting all those old pipe pieces out, like this, that, and the third. And this was like actually like looking back on it, like that was a crazy job to be my first. Like I, there was no time for like air. There was no room for air.
Well, luckily you were
And
just a good welder. That's what they needed.
well, I really just tried because like once I got there, I realized I got there like it was everyone had been there for a few weeks, and so they kind of got me up to speed on walked me around, showed me what we were doing, and they're like, yeah, so we've got 3 more weeks to prep for the shutdown. This is what has to get done. Like right now, we're good. We're on schedule for this part, this stuff. Like we kind of need to step up to, and they're honest. They're just like, listen, it's nothing on you, but during that shutdown, you're probably going to be more of a helper because like we have no room. Like we will not have time to be like teaching or anything during that 48 hours. Like we are going to be go 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 go. So I'm like, okay, like so 48 hours, like or do we like split up into 2 shifts or whatever? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, so like how does that work in 48 hours? Like you're going to be here. And I'm like, okay, like for how long? And they're like, probably 48 hours. And I was like, oh, so we're like working for 48 hours straight. And they're like, yeah, probably. And I was like, oh, okay, got it. I'm like, I don't think that's legal. And they're like, yeah, it's not. But like, we don't have like the extra, like we're working with what we got here. Like, that's why you got brought up here, like with no experience onto a job that like typically we would not bring people on that didn't have like any prior experience. Like this is going to be like,
Direfly.
yeah, this is like, you gotta, everyone has to be like on their P's and Q's for this. And so I was like, all right, like I got 3 weeks to really like lock in and figure out what the hell's going on here. And I just remember like the couple days before, some of the guys from the office flying there and like engineers that had to oversee things getting done, or like service technicians that were going to be there to drain the system out.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know, like if you know anything about like ammonia. At the time I knew nothing about it, but
I know a little bit.
so it attacks moisture. So like if it attacks anything like your eyes, ears, like anywhere you're sweating from, it's gonna burn. So like you're supposed to wear like a respirator if you're working around it. So like they get me like fitted with like a respirator and everything. And they're kind of explaining, they're like, it's like a poison. Your body recognizes it as a poison. So if you try and like breathe, like, there's a certain, like, it's like particles per something.
ppm,
Yeah, I think
parts
that's
per million.
yeah, it's like in the air that's like safe to when it's not safe. And all throughout this plant, because like ammonia is what like the refrigeration system ran on, there's like sensors. So, if it's like green, good, yellow is like, okay, there's more in the air than there should be. Red, you need to get out of the building. Like, there are the levels in here are then like harmful. And so they're like at a point during the shutdown, like like the alarms are going to go off when we cut that main line, because it's going to be like a shock to there's going to be like, we can burn as much of it out as possible, but like it's impossible. You can't get it all. So like that's when it's going to be important, like we got to work quick. And I remember being on top of like this like big tank with the welder that I was working with, and we have to like cut a section out of the pipe. Well, I don't know exactly what went wrong or what had happened, but I guess they hadn't realized that one of the valves was closed. So when he like cut through that metal, there was way more ammonia left in that pipe than was supposed to be. Like, it wasn't just like the residual on the side; it was like sprayed out.
Yikes.
With like pressure behind it. And I didn't even have a respirator on, because he was like, oh yeah, he's like, there's not going to be like any, it's just going to be like, we'll be fine. Like, it might like burn a little bit, like you'll be good. Yikes. Yeah, that guy was an idiot. I'm going to say that, because
you're lucky you didn't get hurt.
Oh yeah, exactly. I get like sprayed out. And so we're both like, busting ass to get down the ladder. All the alarms in this like room that we're working off start going off. And that was within the first like few hours. So that's when it kind of hit me that I was like, oh, this is about to be like a crazy 2 days.
Ignorance is bliss on that one.
Yeah.
I would have been shitting my pants.
Yeah. And it was like, again, like after then learning more about ammonia and like the dangers of it, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad I didn't know how dangerous that was going into it. Like, because, like, I like, we get down the ladder and we get out and I'm like, oh, like that was crazy. And everyone around me is like, yeah, that was crazy.
We didn't
like,
die.
Yeah. They're like, we're okay. And that's insane that we're fine right now. Like, and I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was,
it's
that
wild.
was, and that kind of, it was like a very, very eye-opening experience. And
then you realize that you're working on more dangerous things than
you
ever could have imagined.
Yeah. And like, I look back at just, again, like some of the things, there's obviously like safety standards for everything. And, OSHA's in place for a reason. And again, you learn the hard way on some stuff. You're like, oh, I don't want to go through the extra steps and then you do it and then you get hurt and you realize like, okay, that's why we're supposed to do it a certain way. Mm-hmm. And I just remember like getting done that, and like everyone at that point also got like way more serious, because everyone realized like, okay, like we are really lucky that wasn't worse.
No doubt.
And I think I ended up working like, I think it was like 26 hours straight. And then they were like, all right, everyone, like go home or go back to the hotel for 5 hours, get a nap and come back, and they're like, they're like, all right, it was like midnight. And they're like, all right, everyone, like, you can go back, be back here at 6 or something. You know what I mean? Like, and so we're like, all right. And I remember thinking when they're like, oh yeah, go home. I'm thinking like, oh, finally. And then they're like, be back at 6. And I'm like, what? By the time I get back to the hotel, like, I'm like, and then have to be back here, I'm maybe going to get like 4 or 5 hours of sleep. And then it was like another like 20 hours on top of that. Like that. And that was that was my first like, like go, like project that we had done. And when it was over, it was, it's like, oh, okay, we did it. But yeah, and it's, we're getting down, like that was something we were kind of down to the wire. It was the last few hours, like production was supposed to start back up in like 5 hours. And we have like the head of the plant kind of like breathing down our necks.
Yeah,
like,
the white coat start walking around.
And they're like, are you guys going to be good? Are you going to be good? And I remember one of them coming up to me and he's like, so is this, and I was like, I don't know. I was like, I'm brand new. I was like, I just started. They got like my assigned job on this is to help.
That guy.
Yeah, I was like, don't ask me. Like,
yeah, it gets gnarly.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know.
They start counting by the minute. We're losing 5,000 a minute.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So anything longer than this, we're
they're
chop.
They're gonna like charge the company and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because it's like they're breathing down the necks of our company, like superintendent and engineers. Then they're breathing down the necks of the workers of like, we have to get this done. Good. Yeah, no, it was definitely stressful, but I mean like, that check was nice. That overtime was nice.
I bet. The only part that sucks though is like you're looking at it, you're like, oh, it's really nice. If only I got the full amount.
Yeah, I know the tax is really like,
that's the worst.
I would try not to like look at like what I was getting at. Like I would try not to look at that because it would just hurt. But,
it's the worst.
When you get a paycheck for like a 70, 80 hour week or something, it's like you cannot look at the text.
Yeah.
It is just gonna cause pain.
Yeah.
But just look at look at what's going in your account and just
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a little bit of experience with that. I used to do a lot of work, industrial stuff,
Yeah.
like on the high pressure steam side.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I didn't really know until I got into it was high pressure steam, even low pressure steam is like 1 psi of steam is extremely deadly.
Yeah.
So working around those high pressure pipelines and you're pulling a valve and it's hammering because it's got condensate in there.
Yeah.
And you're just praying it doesn't blow apart. You got
Yeah.
these drain valves that you're whatever, lots of little things.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I guess the point was I didn't realize when I first got into it what the dangers were.
Yeah.
So and then you get into like other things like lockout, tag out, things like that. Probably slowly you got all this. You got a whole suitcase full of gear, and you're like, "What's all this for?" And you're like, "Well, then you're a welder. You got to know all this stuff."
Yeah. Yeah. And you got to be prepared. It's just like, again, something can go wrong so quick. Like, and even when we're talking about, getting set up, it's like, I remember, when I first started, I couldn't understand why the welders were dragging like half their toolbox to where we were working. I'm like, you're not going to need all that. And they're like, yeah, but if I do, like, I might need this. And it's going to be way easier for me just to reach in this bag and grab it than have to go back on the lift, come down, go back to the toolbox, get it. Like, if it's just here, then I already got it. Like,
yeah, that's something I don't think about. I know there's a lot of things that goes along with the welding. That's why it's such a big, broad thing. But
yeah, again, everyone's experience is super different. Like, there might be a welder listening to this that's like, I don't know what she's talking about. Like, I never experienced anything like that. Like, everyone's experience is so different. Like,
all kinds of kinds.
Yeah.
I'm just a inexperienced all around welder where I'm like, I'll go play with the settings. I'm like, this is burning all right. I think I know what I'm doing. It's enough for me. But yeah, I don't know. It's such a interesting topic. Like, or it's such a broad spectrum of things that you can get into. So, was it everything that you'd hoped it'd be?
Yeah, I kind of like, I joke about like, oh, like I'm glad I didn't know like how bad some of the parts would be, but like I don't say that like with regret, you know what I mean? Like, it was like, again, I think it was just like I knew it was going to be hard. I knew it was going to be like dirty and long hours and stuff, but like it was all that I like wanted it to be too, you know what I mean? Like I got to, even if it was just driving through them, I like, got to drive through some cool cities, like, driving from like Wisconsin to Florida to North Carolina, back to Wisconsin for like a little like maintenance thing on it, or then to like Pennsylvania, and then, you know what I mean? Like getting to drive all over the place, see different cities and stuff, like, and getting paid to do it was awesome, you know what I mean? Like,
and you're traveling with cool people too.
Yeah,
that are
what I mean?
like-minded.
Like,
so you're learning and you're listening and all the wisdom that you're gaining.
Yeah, it's like, and just like
stories.
you meet such like a broad like variety of people, like when you're doing that kind of work, like people from like genuinely like all different walks of life, you know what I mean? People who had been in the trade for 30, 40 years, some of them, like some of the older guys, they've been doing it, they're 60 years old and they've been doing it since they were 18, like, or some people like, around my age that had like gone similar paths to me, like gone to school for it, gotten into the trade, and were just a few years ahead of me on it, or, it was just so interesting, like meeting so many different people. And it's, like, even if there's like coworkers you don't always get along with, or, sometimes you have, I feel like in any job, there's always going to be a coworker that like just grinds your gears, you know what I mean? Like you're working with them and you're just like, oh my God, like, it's like the saying, it's like working with you is like working alone, only harder. It's like, you feel like they don't help you at all, you know what I mean? Like they only make your job, like they only make like what you got to do harder. And it's just like, oh my God, like, I wish I was working alone on this right now. But, it's like, then like at some point in conversation, when you're working with somebody side by side for 12 hours, you know what I mean? Like you're going to probably learn a little bit about their life, like you can't, you're probably going to learn a little bit about like what their backstory is and how they got into it. And sometimes there'd be people that, are driving you crazy, and then you learn a little bit about their backstory, and it like really makes you kind of be like earn some respect for them. You're like, okay, well, like they're out here like really busting their ass to provide for their family, or, to help out someone else, or, they're out here because they don't have family to go spend time with, like working on the road can be really lonely. You're working long hours, you're away from home, you're living out of a hotel room a lot of times. And so, it's like, it was always so sad if like it was around the holidays or something. Everyone's talking about, oh yeah, the wife and I are going to do this, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm going home and I'm doing this for Christmas. And then there's like that one guy that's like, real quiet and just not saying anything. And then someone's like, oh, what are you doing? And he's just like, I'm staying here. I'm just gonna be in the hotel, like until we start work again. Like that's just like all they know. And it's just like, and it might be someone that at one point you were like so frustrated with, and you're like, okay, like
Makes sense.
maybe I should like go a little easier on them, like not be so quick to judge. Like you don't know what they're going through, like in their own mind. And there's, I think in any blue collar work, there's obviously like a big stereotype of like addiction and like not so great habits. And working in that job, you kind of see like why that happens to a lot of people. You see like how they fell into that. I
It's
remember,
easy to do.
yeah, and I remember even when I was in school, I was having like some problems with my back, and I was asking one of my instructors. He was like one of the older guys, and I was like, oh, like, what do you, like, how do you like, I want to go on the road. What can I do to like make it bearable? You know what I mean? Like if I keep having this back pain, and he's like, pills.
Oh man.
He's like, yeah, he's like, you can get like prescriptions for it, or you can just keep getting back injections for it. You know what I mean? He's just like, I don't, like, and I was like, oh, okay. I'm looking for like some, you know what I mean? Like, oh, this is like
Vicks vapor rubber.
yeah, you know what I mean? He's just like, you can take some pills for it. And I was like, got it.
Won't
Okay.
be doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. So those are my options. Like, yeah.
Well, it definitely gives me appreciation for it, even more thinking about it, because it's like the undercover job that a lot of people don't think about.
Yeah.
These people, whatever, go out there and you're in a hole somewhere, you're up in the Joyces, and it's like some people don't even know that place that exists, but it says that company, it's everything. It's how they're going to continue on to keep production up. And it's crazy how it's this big thing, but yet it's like undercover.
Yeah. Yeah. One of I think it was the job that I was on the longest project. It was in Pennsylvania, and it was this really small town. We were redoing their ice rink. And again, when I say like, I mean like a small, like little kind of middle of nowhere, like nowhere, just out there.
Amazing they even had an ice rink.
Yeah. And but like that ice rink is like the like pinnacle of the town. You know what I mean? Like their high school team, like their big sports thing is the high school hockey team. You know what I mean? Like that's like that hockey rink, that ice rink, like that's like where the town is on a Friday night is at a hockey game at that ice rink. Do you know what I mean? Like seeing the local high school team play. And
it's
like
everything.
That, yeah, like that is that, like it was at it was like the rink was at kind of like a little rec center park. Like that is the pinnacle of that town. And so it was kind of cool because we were doing the job throughout the summer, and there's like a walking track right that like butts up to the parking lot that we'd park our trucks in, and that we were doing a lot of our work in, because the room where the compressors, it was really small. So pieces that we could prefab just outside in the parking lot, we just put like screens up. We would do a lot of the prefab out there in the parking lot, and then move them in to do like the final, like actually get them in place. We'd kind of do as much as we could, out of the rack, just like out
which
in
is
stands.
nice.
Yeah.
You can move it around and get it all how you want. Get it fitted, and you got those cool rollers.
Exactly. Yeah, we do as much as we could in the rollers, and then bring it in and get it all rigged up and everything. And so many people would like, we have like, it's like a job site, like I have like caution tape up. People would just walk right past the caution tape and be like, oh, this is so cool. Like, can I take a look inside and see what you guys are doing? And we're like, not really, actually. Like, this is like we got like power tools or sparks like flying everywhere. Like, you actually cannot walk through. I'm sorry, but like, it's like such like a small town vibe that they're like, this is so cool that you guys are doing this. Or, like I remember I had like my job box that I had that would stay in the back of my truck. I painted hot pink, and I put like a glitter paint coat on the top. And there was the hockey team, even though the rink was like out of commission and stuff, they still were having like workouts and stuff there. And I remember there was a dad walking to the parking lot with his like daughter, and he was like, Dad, look, like a Barbie toolbox. And like I would write Barbie on a lot of my tools just like as a joke, because like I would mark a lot of guys will like mark their tools with like a certain color paint or something. So obviously I marked all my stuff pink. And like it was already funny because like we joke about like me being like a welder Barbie or something. And it was so funny because the girl was like, look, it's like a Barbie toolbox. And I like saw the girl, and I was like, yeah, it is. Like it is. And she, and you know what I mean? And like I was like, oh, like that was so cool to see. You know what I mean? Like it was so cool to see like a kid like think it was cool. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
sounds so dumb, but
Well,
it's
you
like,
might have inspired her.
yeah, you know what I mean?
You
It
never
was like, I
know.
was like, oh, like, you know, it kind of made me feel good that, like,
Heck
you know,
yeah.
she saw, like, me doing something she's probably, like, never seen another girl doing before, like, out on the job site, like, welding and stuff. But it was
Mm-hmm.
just funny having all these, like, small town people stop, like, try and, like, pop into the job site, like, oh, what's going on, guys?
Yeah. You done yet?
Yeah, like,
It's coming up on.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're like, you know, it's like August and their season starts in September and they're like, oh, like, you know, we can't wait to like see the new rink, and like they don't realize that it's not going to look any different to them. You know what I mean? Everything that we're doing is underground. Like it's all like it's the cooling like pipes that are underneath the cement. You know what I mean? And we're
Mm-hmm.
like, I was like, well, I hate to break it to you, I'm like, it's probably not going to look any different to you.
Yeah, yeah. They didn't take the extra time to go spruce up the
Yeah,
bleachers or anything.
yeah, I was
This is
like,
just the why it works.
yeah, but I was like, it's gonna work great though.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
sorry,
funny.
it's not gonna look any different, but you
It'll
know,
be
like,
reliable.
yeah, it's gonna stay nice and cold. Promise you that.
Yeah,
But
that's interesting. Did it kind of shed some light on the one at the carousel?
yeah,
Like, did
that
it give
yeah.
you a bigger appreciation for it?
Yeah, no, that was like, and that was so that was part of like what was really cool when my boss told me we were going to be doing this job, and I were like telling my dad about it. I was like, we're actually going to be doing an ice rink, like, and he was like, oh, that's pretty cool, like,
Yeah.
you know, like, and it was something growing up ice skating at the Carousel ice rink, like, I never thought about how it stayed. You know, I knew that, you know, I remember like when I was little asking my dad like how it stayed, you know, like how the ice stayed frozen or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
him just saying, you know, there's compressors, you know, like underneath the cement that keep it cold enough that, you know, it stays frozen. You know, I didn't know anything past that. I don't even know what, you know, what that meant or anything. But then actually being able to see like how intricate the like we used on this project, I think it was called like HDPE. It's like that it's kind of like that like plasticky piping
Okay.
for under the ice rink, and then all like carbon steel in the compressor room. And but it was like even just watching like the HDPE get all laid out in like this like crazy intricate pattern, so that there was never more than I think it was like there couldn't be more than a foot that didn't have like part of that running by it. You know what I mean? So that like that's how like the ice would all stay like evenly frozen. You wouldn't have one part of the ice rink where like, you know, it was constantly like melting down or something.
Mm-hmm.
And watching them lay it out in this like crazy intricate pattern, and then even I like even thought it was so cool seeing just like the concrete guys come in and like pour the concrete. Like that's just something I'd never seen done before. You know what I mean? Like, and it was crazy. Like watching, I was like, well, like it's just stuff you wouldn't think about until you see it, and it's like, whoa, like you said, it gives you like a new appreciation. Like even when we walked in this room and you're saying like, you know, you put all this together, I'm like, dude, like this is sick. Like
Yeah.
you just like threw this together and it looks like awesome.
Yeah. Thanks.
Like,
But yeah, it's amazing to see it come together, and you know, I've watched people build stuff or a house remodel, and I'm like, damn, that's a lot of stuff. Like
yeah,
a lot of stuff.
it's so many things you'd never consider.
Mm-hmm.
Like
And then you don't think you could even do it, and the next thing you know, you're the one doing it. It's like, well,
Yeah.
I guess the torch is passed. It's
Yeah.
time, you know.
yeah,
So
I remember
kinda cool.
one of my family members asked like when I like first started working, she's like, I don't really understand. Like you said, you work for a refrigeration company, and I was like, yeah, like it's industrial refrigeration. And she goes, I just don't really understand like why they would need welders. And I was like, that's like a really, I guess it's like kind of hard question to answer. I guess.
very broad.
And I'm like, you know, I was like think of like engineering. You know, I said, you know, we're not talking about like the refrigerator in your house or the walk-in refrigerator at the restaurant. I'm like, we're talking about like a, you know, a warehouse, and the whole place has to stay cold. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, it's a much bigger system than like, you know, the refrigerator you got.
Yeah,
Like,
and it's moving ammonia.
yeah, I was like, I was like, refrigeration isn't just like refrigerators. I'm like, it's a whole like, yeah. I'm like, it's one of those things, and especially even just being early on in the trade, I was like, I really don't know how to like explain this to you without showing you, because like, you know, I didn't even fully understand it. That I still feel like I don't fully. There's so much like, there is so much to know. Like you're talking like valves and like the pressure, like how much pressure has to stay on certain lines, and when you're working with different elements and everything, it's like a thousand
lot.
things going into it. But I remember when she said that, I was like, I don't know if I can like really explain this to you. I don't really know if I can like answer your question well on like it's a lot. It's probably I think I ended up just saying it's probably a lot bigger than what you're thinking it is. Like what I'm doing is probably a much like bigger project than what you're envisioning.
Right.
Like, and then I remember sending pictures. We're working on this like roof in Wisconsin. It's like January, you know, it's like 0 degrees outside. It's freezing. There's like snow and ice everywhere. It's like, and this roof, oh, it was so nasty. They're like the exhaust pipes, there would be like grease dripping out of them. And so you'd have to like, you'd be trying to get in like a certain position to do a weld, and like it would just be grease all over the ground. And you're like,
I gotta get in there.
yeah, you're like, I could maybe go scrounge up enough cardboard to lay down, but then it's a fire hazard. Like, you're like,
Everything has a caveat.
yeah, you're like, then it's a fire hazard, and
Mm-hmm.
you're like, and we don't have enough cardboard here for that.
Yeah, just get down in there and do
We
it.
have like they'll have like some fire blankets, but a lot of them, they all like I'm trying it's like fiberglass and stuff, so it'll like get in your clothes
Oh,
and
yeah.
it'll like bitch and burn. And you're like,
yeah.
okay, you're like I don't want to lay on that. And I just remember I had like my coveralls on and just being like, I will be stopping by the store and buying a new pair of these tonight because what I'm about to do is ruining.
Yeah, this stuff ain't never coming out.
I was like, because it was just one of those things. It's like, you got like 2 hours left in the day, and it's like, all right, this has got to get done, and no one can think of a better way to do this. So I'm laying in the grease.
Yeah. 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 Luckily, it's such a broad area where like you don't have to know everything.
Yeah,
You
you don't, no.
you just have to focus on what you know,
yeah.
and then you got everyone else that like that say is a service tech that's out there moving the refrigerant with a torch. You
Yeah.
know, you ever see those guys that move ammonia
Yeah, yeah,
with a torch?
yeah, yeah.
That's insane.
Well, even like so like once they drained the system, there was because it's like obviously like, cold. So once we took all the insulation off the pipes, we could see if like there was if the pipe wasn't perfectly level where it was sitting in one of the systems because it would be like frosted over. And we already have like a weed torch. They're like, yeah, just go like blow the pipe with the torch. And
That's
I'm
what
like,
I'm talking about.
and I was like, what?
And it moves it.
Yeah, and they're like, it'll burn off like as you heat up the pipe. It'll like burn it off. And I was like, okay, so I'm gonna be walking through this plant with
With a weed
with
burner
a
torch.
weed burner, like
Yeah, and then your
heating-
tank for your propane's getting frozen, so you take your torch and heat that sucker back
yeah, and
up.
I'm like, it's one of those things. I'm like,
Yeah,
or it's like you do a pressure test. I'm curious if you've ever like seen this done since you worked with like gas lines and stuff, where to make sure there were no leaks in the welds. They're like, okay, we're gonna do a pressure test, and I'm thinking some super like crazy thing. No, it's Dawn dish soap and water in a spray bottle, and you spray the welds to make sure that you can see it. Because if any of them leaking, you're gonna see a bubble. They're like pouring dish soap, and I'm like, what are we doing? They're like, we're doing the pressure test, and I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, you spray. He's like, you gotta go spray them. I'm thinking there's like some special thing. No, it's dish soap.
Oh, yeah.
In a spray bottle.
oh yeah. You can check your tires too.
Yeah, but but it works. You know what I mean? Like, it works. It's how it's how you test it. Like,
Yeah,
'cause
there is stuff like a big leak detector, Big
like,
Blue and stuff. But yeah, no, I've done it.
He like our superintendent comes back. He's got like the gallon of soap, and he's like, all right, it's time to pressure test. And I'm like, what? Like, okay.
What's the dish soap for?
And he's like, it's for the pressure test. And I'm like, okay, clearly you're forgetting that I don't know what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
Like, what does the dish soap have to do with this? And he's like, oh, like you spray it on the welds to like see if they like if it suds up, it means that there's a leak. And I'm like, oh, okay, simple enough.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, I just it's amazing to me to see you get started in it, and then I don't know, it just super cool. Just from my own personal stuff, I'm like, man, I can't imagine getting into it, knowing I kind of got into it like just messing with it, but like knowing ins and outs and being specialized in like say your settings on your welder and stuff. It's I feel like it's definitely the right way to do it, but like you have an advantage to be a better out of the gate versus like somebody just self-taught. So that's interesting.
I and sometimes you joke, you're like, oh, did you get imposter syndrome when I was like we were trying to schedule this, and I'm like, I was talking to my friend this morning, she's a nurse, and I'm like, no, like I really feel like I do kind of have imposter syndrome on this. I'm like, because I'm like, someone could listen to this that's a welder and be like, oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about. But like, I got to remind myself, like, but this is, like, this is my experience and it
Exactly.
might be completely different. And
all kinds.
She reminded me something I told her. She's a nurse and she works in like a cardiac unit in a hospital. And, I remember saying, she was talking about her work day one time and I'm like, how much you just know is crazy. You know what I mean? Like just how much you know about like the human body. I was like, that's crazy. And she was like, yeah, she's like, it's crazy because I feel like I don't actually know that much, but it's just because it's like second nature at this point. You know what I mean? Like she's been in it for a few years. Like she's like, it's just what I do all day. So she's like, I all the time think like, oh, I don't actually know that much, like, but she does. Like she's talking about it, and I'm like, I have no idea what half the things you're saying. Or so you kind of have to remember, you probably know more than you think you do. You're saying you're like, oh, I just know a little. No, like you probably know so much more than you think you do. And even like with welding, sometimes I was like, oh, like I was thinking about when you asked me to do this, I'm like, oh, do I even like know enough? I was only in the trade for like 2.5 years. I'm like, do I even know enough to like go talk on this? But
Absolutely.
I kind of remind myself, I'm like, yeah, but I did this for 2.5 years.
Right.
Like this is what I did almost every single day.
But it's cool. It's your perspective. Your perspective, not anybody else. I mean, if anybody else wants to come on here and talk about their welding experience, I'd love to have them on. Come on, call me up.
Yeah, come on. Any welders in there? You come on.
It's just interesting to hear from your perspective, and then see from you going to school and starting out and like not having a background, not watching your dad do it, not anything.
Yeah.
The next thing you know, you're like, well, I don't know why, but my feet just keep pushing me here. The next thing you know, you're doing it.
Yeah.
That's the point. So it doesn't matter to anybody can say anything. They could say, I'm not a good podcaster, and that's fine too. I'm not. I'm still learning. But
you're doing great.
It's just part of it, and it's I don't know. You lead yourself to where you're supposed to be at. So I just think it's super interesting, and it's a trade too, where you if you don't do it for a while, you get a little rusty, but you can't take it from you.
Yeah.
Like you're never not going to know how to do it, right?
Yeah.
So like
It's
down the road, when in 5 years or whatever, you may never turn it back on. But it's a switch. Right now, it's just idle. You know what I mean? And boom, turn that sucker back on, fire the machine up, and get back after it.
Yeah.
So.
No, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely something that it definitely helps to like keep your hand in it. Like, the only way to get better at welding is welding, and that was I've the amount of times I've heard that like expression just like throughout school, and then even in the field, it's I'd be like, oh well, every time I'm in this position, I feel like it's it's just it's not looking how I want it to look. Like I can't get it to lay right, or I can't get I can't get this or whatever, and people just say they're just like the only way to get better at it is to keep doing it, so like. It might be frustrating that the only way to get better at being in a real uncomfortable position is to be in an uncomfortable position. But like, it's just like, that's the only way you're going to get better at it is figuring out how to make it work, how to make it comfortable when, you're laying on rocks and you've got like that much space between the pipe and the ground. Like, all right, how can I get my rod in there? How can I like, just your welding hood itself. It's like, how can I get myself to a position where I can even see what I'm doing here? Like, welders will take like literally like mirrors, and they'll put the mirror up, and then they'll be watching the mirror to weld. Like, if they just can't fit where they need to see, that was crazy for me to learn about. I remember like in school, someone talking about, well,
and it's backwards.
Yeah, they're like, well, if you want to grab a mirror, so you can practice. And I'm like, a mirror? What? Like what? And he's like, oh yeah, he's like, you might not always be able to fit like. Where you need to see if you're working with I think it's like boiler tubes and stuff, like they're real close together on like a water wall.
Yeah.
And they're like, there's no way to get on the back side of that wall. They're like, you're going to put a mirror back there and you're going to watch the mirror as you do it. And so like you said, it's like watch it, backwards, like figuring out how to do that. Like that's crazy learning how to do that that's a whole different.
Yeah. I didn't have a whole bunch of experience with welding on boilers, but that was the world I was in was high pressure steam, and that's what they would do. And you got guys that are the welders and they're rolling tubes, which those are sealed with a roll, which you probably seen enough of that.
Yeah.
But it goes hand in hand with the refrigeration / boilers / like you're doing the same, not the same thing. But some of those, it kind of intersects. But it's definitely interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just happy that you came on and got to hear your side of the story and what you've been up to. Really, I haven't seen you in freaking forever. So
yeah, I know it's
cool just to hang out.
Crazy. I was like in high school out here, and then it's like now it's I sometimes like when I think about like even just like you were saying like talking about how I got into it and everything, and how like I never would have guessed that I would be like doing that as my career or anything. But like, life will take you crazy places, and it's just, now I'm 24. It's like, I don't know. It's crazy though.
Well, like you said earlier, it's amazing what just following your gut where it'll lead you.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm supposed to be at, but it's leading me here. I
Yeah.
guess I'm just going to be here for now.
Yeah.
And then eventually I'll turn left and see where that takes me. You know,
Yeah.
at that point, the calling or the feet moving just pull me that way. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
no, I believe God's gonna put you where He wants you and everything, and it's, you know, and even if you know, I ended up again not even being in the trade like all that long, but I knew that at some point like I wanted kids and a family, and it's like being on the road, like that's how I met my husband. Like
it got you what you
I
wanted.
never would have been in an airport in Savannah, you know what I mean? Like if it
Yeah.
weren't for the fact that I was on that job and like flying home for, you know, flying home to see my family and everything, and then, you know, I end up meeting my husband, and now it's like now I am like exactly where I want to be of like, you know, having kids, having family, like, and it's
Came full
crazy. Like,
circle.
you know, exactly. It's like that's that's really crazy.
That's
And it's
amazing.
I'm so thankful for like where the trade brought me and everything, and everybody that I met doing the job and the advancements I was able to make in my career in the short period of time that I was in it. Like I'm very thankful for the people that like did take me seriously and did give me the time of the day like to teach me and to help me progress in my career. And you know, I think, you know, you're always going to get some bosses that you're not too fond of.
We're all gonna have
But
that.
I'm really, really thankful for the couple of bosses that I did have over the few years, like the different foremans or superintendents that like really were like good at their job and, you know, cared about their crew and, you know, made sure everyone was like safe and being taken care of by the company and stuff, you know, like company man don't always like, you know, not always looking out for the like the small guy on the job site and stuff. So it's, you know, it was really you know, you earn a lot, you gain a lot of respect for the people who work to those higher positions and still really take care of like the, you know, the lower tier like jobs and everything. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's nice. You gotta have that. You know, that's what it takes to run companies. One, but
Yeah.
also to have people that last and do the morale and like you got to think about it from your side too, where like you got to want to come to work.
Yeah.
You got to know that somebody's got your back. So
Yeah.
it's like on all aspects, it just has to work.
Yeah,
But
yeah, and then like when it pays off, I remember I was like a year in, and you know, I'd been given like a raise at some point, like nothing crazy, you know, like what kind of, you know, what I was hoping to get. And one day, one of the superintendents were on this job. We'd been on for a little bit, and he's like, "Hey, he's like, I'm talking to the office today. Like, I'm gonna get you another raise." And I
nice.
hadn't, you know, I hadn't even asked, and I was like, "Oh, like, thank you. Like, I really appreciate that." And he's like, "Yeah, I know, you know, you're not supposed to talk with your coworkers. You know, you're not supposed to like tell people, you know, what you make or whatever." And but he's like, when I compare the work that you're putting out to the work that some other people are putting out to what you're getting paid and they're getting paid, he's like, you need to be getting paid.
Damn
Like,
right.
and I, you know, I knew that I was still like newer. And so I didn't expect to necessarily be making the same that guys that have been in it for 10, 15 years. But he's like, you need to be making closer to what they're making. He's
Right.
like, there's no reason
The
that
quality
they
of your
can't.
welds speak for
He was
themselves.
like, there's no reason that like, you know, you can't be getting paid that. And he's like, I know that like, they're not going to tell you that, but he's like, I'm like, you should be making more than you are right now. And I was,
That's a leader.
yeah, exactly. And I was really just like thankful that he even like pointed that out because, you know, he's right. First of all, I mean, some people don't care. Some people are like, yeah, this is what I make an hour, you know,
Well,
and
a
like,
boss would
and
just be like, hell yeah, we're gonna keep riding that train and pay her as little as we can, as
yeah,
long as we
you
can.
know, exactly. You know what I mean? And me like being newer and not wanting to like, you know, not wanting to come across as like cocky or, you know, like, oh, well, I deserve this much, you know what I mean? Like, you should be paying me this. Like, you know, I knew that I still like was lacking in experience. So I didn't want to, you know, I didn't want to push for more than like I was comfortable with what I was making. Obviously, you know, you always like,
More is always
yeah,
better.
obviously you're always like, oh,
Welcome.
like, yeah, like, oh, it would be nice to make a little bit more. But I was okay with where I was at. You know, I was like, all right, excuse me, like I could, I'm not gonna, you know, bring up a raise for a couple more months. But I was really thankful that like when he saw like what I was capable of and what I was doing, that he like took it upon himself to be like, you know, she's probably not going to push for this because she doesn't know that she can yet. Like, I'm going to push for this for her
Yeah,
because, like, this is what she should be making.
damn right.
And I was like, I was so thankful for that because it also kind of gave me the confidence, like, you know, having some confidence in my own work. You know, like
Hell
you're
yeah.
always like comparing your work to the person next to you and what you see online, like, you know, the highlight reel of like all like the really good welders that post their like the pictures of what they weld and everything. It's like, oh, like I want to make mine look like that. But, you know, they've been doing it for 15 more years than you and stuff. So it was always like, I was always very, very appreciative of the people who like, you know, were on my side in that aspect. So,
Yeah, I agree. And that's what takes it. I mean, that's been my differentiation between a boss and a leader.
yeah.
And I would work for somebody like that guy, I'd work for that guy 100%. But it's when you work for those people that just want to take, or if they're looking at you as like how much you can provide. Anyhow, that's just how I differentiate. You can work for a leader or you can work for a boss.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the difference. And
Yeah.
I firmly believe that. And it always
Absolutely.
drives me nuts when I hear somebody say my boss. I'm like,
Yeah.
gosh, that just,
Yeah.
it sounds, to listen to somebody say I have a boss. Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, ugh,
Yeah.
I hate
I know what you
that.
mean.
Gosh,
Yeah.
that's word. But yeah, I don't know. If I were ever, I had an employee once and I said, I only ever want to be a leader. Like if I'm not pulling the rope with you just as hard as you, then I'm being your boss. I don't want that ever.
Yeah. And that was the guy who actually hired me out of school. It was only like a couple months after I'd taken that job. He reached out to me and he's like, hey, so, my last day with this company is actually like, coming up. And he's like, I'm going to take a job doing the same position, but with this company. And they've asked me to build a crew. And he's like, I'd really like you to be on that crew.
Hell yeah.
And he's like, take some time to think about it. Like, this is what I can offer you. Very similar work to what you're doing now. But yeah, like, I'd really like to bring you onto this crew. I'm also asking this person and this person, and I really had liked working for him so far. I felt like, he was a good boss. Like he really did have, like, I felt like our best interest at heart. And I remember when I told my parents, I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and like take this job with the new company, still working under this person. And they were like, are you sure, you're still kind of new. It seems a little bit, early on in your career to already be like jumping to a new company. And I was like, listen, like, he took a risk on me, like being fresh out of school with no experience. And I was like, I feel like I really can try, it was a risk for him to hire me. And like, he trusted me. He trusted that I was going to work hard. And like, so far he has like, not done me wrong at all. Like, he's really like taking care of me and making sure that like, I'm like doing what he said that I would do. Cause sometimes, you get hired for a job and they say it's
sell
one
you everything.
thing. They say it's one thing and then you get on it.
They
It's like,
sell you everything under the sun
Yeah.
until you agree to it.
Yeah. And like, what he had said, he's like, when he first hired me with the original companies, they're like, we can pay you this much just because you don't have much experience, but if you can do this, this, and this over the next few months, like, we promise you a raise. And he kept his word on that. Like, he gave me the raise when he said he would. He, like, what he said it was going to be, he was like, he kept his word on that. And so when he like offered me the job with a new company, I was like, yeah, like, I want to, like, I think it's rare to find like a relationship like that, like where, like you said, like, you don't feel like your boss is your boss, but you feel like it's like a leader, or like, I felt like I had like a friend in him, kind of like someone that I knew.
You're loyal.
Yeah, someone that I felt like because he would always say, he's like, if anyone on the job site's giving you a hard time, or you are the only female that we have on the like in the field, like through all of our crews, like, and the only other girl in the entire company was like someone in the office.
Right.
He's like, call me, like, I promise like we'll get it taken care of. And so like I just appreciated that he kind of looked out for me in that way. So I was like, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna take like the risk and follow you to this new company, and it ended up working. And I was really glad that we did that, and I worked for him the whole time that I was in the field.
Damn right.
So
that's cool. Any future plans? I mean, I know you're gonna ride this, mom thing out for a while. I'm kidding. But,
yeah,
I mean,
hang out with my kids for a while,
Do you ever think that you'll like do any kind of artwork or any kind of like garage, maybe, whatever? Like, is there any of that kind of pique your interest, or you're just like, nah, I'm cool with it for now?
I mean, I don't know. It just kind of depends. Like, my old instructor that I'd had at Warwick, he had reached out. I had, just been in contact with him, a couple months ago, and I had told him that, my husband and I were moving back to the area. And he was like, oh yeah, like, come by the shop if you ever get a chance. And, a few weeks after that, he'd actually called me and he's like, hey, they're looking for some more teachers. Like, I know you just like, had your daughter, probably not, I know you're probably not interested in this right now, but they're expanding the program over the next few years and they're going to need more teachers. You know what I mean? Is that something you'd ever be interested in? And I was like, yeah, I said, like you said, right now, I just, it's not really like in the cards, like for the schedule and everything. But I was like, in the future, absolutely. Like, that would be awesome to be able to go, kind of do for other kids what he did for me, like when I knew nothing. Walk them through the basics.
That's what it takes.
Yeah, just walk them through the basics, like, something like that, just like a twice a week night class or something. I was like, yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd be happy to do that. And again, like, over the next few years, I'm sure I'm probably going to be busy with like little kids, but in a few, who knows, in a few years, like, I could definitely like see myself getting a job in a shop for, something just to do, or It's just like when my like husband's friend just needed like a hand, like you just didn't know what to do. Like I was happy to go like help him out and just like show him what I knew. I was like, I don't know a ton, but this is just what I would do for that. So
That's awesome.
stuff like that, yeah.
I could definitely see you doing something in the trade school or something like that. That'd
Yeah.
be cool, and
Yeah,
it
I'd be happy to
inspires
do that, yeah.
it inspires people and other girls that might want to
Mm-hmm.
do it, and to give them the confidence of like, hey, I do belong here. You know, not that they can do whatever they want really,
Yeah.
but it's kind of nice to see somebody that's done it, has been through it, and you give them a first hand experience of like, hey, this is what it's like.
Yeah,
So,
there was
it's
there was
interesting.
like a group at the welding school I went to. It was like just for like, because there weren't that many like women in the school in general, they kind of, I think it just started as like we'd always kind of like end up being buddies with each other.
Right.
And then the school kind of noticed that, the women there would probably benefit from kind of having like an organized group. And so that started just like 2 months before I left. And then once I got into the trade, one of the people from the office had reached out like from the school and was like, hey, if you're ever back in Jacksonville, these girls meet once a week on this day. If you ever have the opportunity to come back and talk to them and just share some of your experience so far of like what it's actually like being in the field compared to school, like that'd be awesome. And I was like, yeah, I would love to do that. Like, because I was always thankful of anyone who would take the time to talk to me
Right.
when I was in school or just starting out, like especially like another girl. Like I said, like I'd reached out to some like women I found on Instagram that were welders and had like big followings, and like, it was so like inspiring if they like took the time of day, like just to, like answer a DM or something, like, hey, I'm getting into it. Any tips and tricks? And like anything they'd share, I was so appreciative of. So when I got a chance and I was back in Jacksonville, like, it was awesome to go and talk to the girls to be like, yeah, like, I graduated from the same program that you're doing now just a couple months ago. And I've already been able to, do this, this, and this. And like, like it was awesome just to be able to like talk to them, having been in the same position that they were in, and being like, I know sometimes you're going to be like, can I even do this? Like,
Yeah.
but you can, I promise you can.
That's
like,
awesome.
It's going to work out. Like there's, it's going to be hard, but yeah, like if this is what you want, like if you are set on this, like you definitely can do this. Like it is an attainable goal you got. Like,
And you're going to question it the whole way, whether or not you should belong or not, but just
Yeah.
stick with it. Just stay in your shoes.
yeah, I was
That's
like, yeah. So I'm like, I can't promise you won't be the only girl wherever you are.
Yeah.
But,
It's just
like,
part of it.
it's the kind of thing. I'm like, you probably kind of knew that going into this though, that, you were going to be one of few, if not the only like woman in the room. Like that's just how it is. Like when you take on something like that.
Yeah. Phew. Yeah, I can't imagine getting into it, like going to school for it. It's got to be where, I don't know, I always err on the side of like, I'll just dabble with it a little bit. So if I fail, I was like, well, no harm, no foul. But I think it's cool. Definitely a cool recount of your experience.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
I'm pumped. I just think it's killer that you've been out there, you did it, and you can share that with everyone else.
I appreciate
So,
that. Thank you. Yeah,
but-
it's always fun to talk about for sure. It's such
Yeah.
like you said, just unexpected like time in my life.
I love it. I think it's killer, and
Thank
it
you.
just goes to show you that anybody can do anything that they want. It's just
Absolutely.
how much do you want it. So
Yeah.
that's with everything. Like
Exactly.
if you didn't prove it, you did prove it. But like there's so many
Yeah.
other things that but that's one of the things that I wondered too. Was how like you were into horse stuff, right? For a
Yeah.
long time. Very good equestrian.
Oh, thank you.
And then my daughter was trying to get me into it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I was over there a little bit to learn a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm like, I don't want to shortcut it,
Yeah.
because there's lots of little things that I don't know or I don't feel
Yeah.
that like you can hurt yourself, but it's like, I don't know, there for a second, it's like I didn't feel like I was adequate enough to even ride the thing. It's like I need to bear down and
Yeah.
deal with the trenches and do the grooming and all the stuff
Yeah.
first. But it's like if you do get started, you can kind of learn on the fly too.
Yeah.
There's more than one way to skin the cat.
Fake
I
it till you
guess.
make it, yeah. And
Yeah,
it's,
so,
yeah. No,
I don't know.
I definitely understand. There were definitely times, especially like those first couple jobs where I'm like, I don't know enough to be here. Like I don't, especially it's like before the workday starts, it's like that 15 minutes or so, everyone's like getting out of their trucks and everyone's standing around in the parking lot, everyone's like smoking a cigarette and I'm standing there trying not to like vomit. Breathing in like all this like second and but I'm trying to like act tough, like I don't
got
yeah
this.
like I just bared in like a cloud of smoke and I'm like like gagging, like smelling all the cigarette smoke. But I'm like, nope, I got it. Like,
I'm doing
I
it.
can't, can't let them see. Like,
That's so
can't show the
badass.
weakness. I'm like, just gotta, even if I don't have much to contribute to this conversation, like, I cannot go hide in the truck right now. I got to at least be out here.
Yeah,
Like,
that's badass.
I'm like, I don't know anything. I don't know what they're talking about. Like, they're throwing around all these terms I don't know. They're talking about tools I've never heard of or all this and like, but I'm like, no, I gotta see it through.
Yeah,
See it through.
fake it till you make it. I
Yeah.
love it. Well, Mary, I appreciate your time. We'll wrap it up.
Thank you.
Is there anything, closing thoughts, any social media that you want to plug?
I'm okay.
Okay, I just figured I'd ask.
Yeah, I mean, like, only closing thought would probably just be, if anyone's listening to this that's interested in getting into the trade work in general, and maybe not even welding, but like, just go for it. I mean, there are so many programs that you'd never probably know about if you didn't like look into them or hear about it. I just happened to stumble across the fact that our community college had an intro course for welding.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely like look into your local community college, look into your local union hall. Again, like that's not the route that I went, but that still can be.
It's a great resource.
I have friends that did that, and it's a great resource. It can be a great like job opportunity. They got great benefits normally through the unions and everything.
Even just reaching out to a company and saying, "Hey, I'm only 17 or whatever,
Yeah.
I have an interest in this." A lot of them will pick you up and just have you hang out and kind of teach you or let you do ride-alongs until
Yeah.
you're able to have the job.
Yeah,
So,
and it's like being a helper, like just being a hand on the job site. Like again, you're never like no job is below you. It's what you gotta remember that. Like if you're having a hard time getting hired for the trade you want, and then you get offered a job as an apprentice or helper, like take it. It can if you can take that job, I definitely would. You're gonna learn a lot, and yeah, you might not be doing everything you want to do. You might
it's
be
not a fairy tale all the time.
you might be sweeping floors or cleaning up after other people, but like just being in the setting, you're gonna learn so much. So I would definitely like encourage people to like, just take any opportunity that comes their way. Like, just go for it, kind of think, okay, what's the worst that can happen? Like, you don't like it? Okay. Like, that's fine,
Yeah. Tried it, didn't like it.
Yeah.
Go home. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm super thankful for your time.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. This is fun
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Heck yeah. All right. We'll wrap it up.
All right.
All right. See you guys.